All right, good evening, everybody. We are live here for our first severe warning here in the state of Indiana. We have a cell moving into the northern Lake County area, and this is going to be impacting areas along Highland over to Hobart, as well as Maryville, just south of Gary. Gary will be impacted, but the core of this storm is this purple zone here between Lansing and Highland, moving pretty much due east with a little bit southward movement directly toward the town of Hobart. It's going to be following very closely to West Ridge Road, also known as US 6. This severe warning is covering hail up to the size of quarters, and there is no wind risk technically with this storm. It says less than 50 miles per hour is the expectation here. Give me a thumbs up in chat if you guys can hear me okay. Give me a second here.
It's really far away, so I'm just going to call this guy for now. Just rising motion to the base.
Get my headphones popped in.
A little bit more interesting.
I thought I had this done already, but I guess I don't. Thank you, Nikki, for the thumbs up. Appreciate it. We'll be live throughout the evening tonight, tracking these storms. We'll also go over the threats tonight and also areas of concern here in just a second, but I do want to make sure those people in Lake County are also up to speed with what's coming their way in the next couple of minutes. So again, northern Lake County in a severe warning for large hail up to the size of quarters. There we go. Perfect. Got that in. That should be a distraction anymore. I do want to check one thing here. Radio check 1 2. Also a cell down here just south of Crown Point and Valparaiso. Over Hebron, heading toward the city of Couts as well as La Crosse. That's not currently warned, but it could be here in the near future as these storms, any storm you see on your radar here across northern Indiana will have potential for large hail that could be upwards of golf ball size or perhaps closer to tennis ball size in the very strongest storms. So we'll be live throughout the evening here. We do expect multiple severe warnings. The overall threat for anything tornadic is low right now. And that is all because we have that cold front sagging south, and the storms right now are on the cold side of that cold front, which is not good for tornadoes. A new severe warning is incoming here for Jasper as well as Porter counties. We just talked about this cell actually. It's going to be for quarter-size hail, and that's going to go until looks like 6:15 for an expiration time on that. Includes Couts, Boone Grove, Malden, as well as Hebron, State Route 8, State Route 49 here through Jasper, as well as Porter counties. So now two severe warnings here, two cells worth monitoring with large hail potential as they move eastward here through the evening. Also want to take note, the cell between these two cells, the one that looks the strongest is going to be up there in Lake County. Just past south of Hammond, the core of that is. And then if I go ahead and back out of here, animate this so you guys can see the direction of this, we're going to notice it's going to be pretty much a due east and a little bit southward movement with these storms. So you're going to see a movement. If these continue, which they will continue, eastward and southward, next counties over, Westville, Kingsford Heights, Hannah, North Judson, and Knox areas should be on alert. These storms are moving pretty rapidly. We're talking upwards of 50 to 60 miles per hour. The text of the warning says moving east at 75, so I definitely underestimated that. These storms moving at 75 miles per hour to the east. So if you're down here in Knox or LaPorte, for example, you guys, it may seem like a county or two away, but they're going to be on top of you guys very quickly because of the quick storm motions this evening. So keep that in mind if you're out ahead of these storms. Looking at the overall picture of things, basically anywhere north of I-70 is under a severe thunderstorm watch, primarily for large hail, secondary threat of damaging winds. There is a low risk tonight for a couple tornadoes. Again, these storms right now are on the cold side of that warm front, which is bad for tornado production. So right now it's mainly, and looking like primarily a mainly damaging hail and damaging wind threat with these storms. This northern Lake County cell heading into Hobart, Lake Station, New Chicago area has a very, very potent core. We don't want to see that purple. It's now turning black in nature, which is getting close to 70 dBz, which is almost getting on the very higher end of the scale here. We measure the rain, the hail with. So that's not a good sign. If we turn the hail tracker on, is it updated? It is updated, and that is not a good sign. This is your hail tracker here, directly over the Black Oak neighborhood, just right along 8094 here, about to cross 65, probably over 65 right now, heading in toward Hobart and New Chicago in a matter of seconds. So you guys need to be inside, away from windows. Hopefully you guys took your precautions and put your cars inside their garages, as I've been suggesting here. This is potentially and likely large hail that is upwards a quarter size, maybe a bit larger, moving into the Hobart, New Chicago, and Lake Station areas, eventually heading toward Wheeler, Sedley, and South Haven areas over here just south of the 8090 interchange or interstate. Taking a peek back here at the radar, we're going to notice, if we zoom out, we're going to see several storms even down here, heading up just south of Rensselaer, heading up toward Monticello, over Fowler, Remington areas. These all have hail cores on them. However, honestly, they look pretty potent. So we may get another warning on these cells as they progress to the eastward here toward Monon, Wolcott area, just south of Rensselaer. So we'll keep an eye on these cells as well for another warning perhaps incoming from the Weather Service. They just updated the warning up here. They have kept it as a quarter size hail. Moving into New Chicago, this radar scan appears to be a couple minutes old. We are 2 minutes old, so it's basically over New Chicago or entering New Chicago right now as we speak. Current time, bottom right of your screen, is 5:53 p.m. Eastern. Up here in Lake County, it is Central Time, so technically 4:53 Central Time up there in the northwest part of Indiana. We do expect multiple storms this evening to fire up. What you see on your radar is what we're going to be dealing with the next couple hours. So if you're over there in Fort Wayne area, there's nothing really going on right now for you, but give it an hour or so, we'll be talking about storms approaching the Fort Wayne metro area in the next hour to 2 or so hours. Right now, though, the threat is in northwest Indiana, primarily north of Lafayette to around Kokomo to Portland area. We do expect a line to form as the night goes on and slowly progress southward. You guys and you folks south of I-70 right now, the threat appears to be quite low in nature for severe weather. Don't let your guard down, but the threat appears much higher across the 70 corridor and points northward. We do have chasers out and about here through the evening. Let's go ahead and cycle through our chasers. I know we have Drew out there. He is in Napoleon, Ohio. So he's just across the border in Ohio there. We also, I don't believe we have Evan or Freddie tonight, but we do have a couple of our Indiana-based chasers. We have, I believe we have Corey coming around with us. We have Steven out there with us. He is in the Macy, Indiana area. We also have a couple others who are out and about. We do have Caleb. Caleb's usually the one in my shoes tonight, but I'm taking Caleb's spot, and Caleb's out in the field. He is going to be on a couple cells in the Huntington area. So we do have chasers who are chasing and giving us visuals out here in the field. We also have our weather camera network. We have about 9 cameras that we can take a peek at, and we can get a good feel for what's going on in certain parts of the state. So we do have that. We also have reports from you guys here in chat, as well as behind the scenes. We have several sources from the Weather Service, as well as other things to kind of go off of too. So we do have several avenues of communication tonight for the risks that are associated. All good. Thank you. So new severe warning now incoming. We're going to be talking about that in just a second. Here's going to pop on your screen. Downstream warning here for quarter size hail. It's going to be for Porter County, the northern half of Porter County, as this cell is now over Hobart and over New Chicago, heading towards South Haven. So South Haven, you guys are going to take a direct hit from this hail core. Again, there's no rotation. There's no real wind threat that we see with this cell, but we turn on the hail tracker and it's a little bit behind, but you can definitely tell the nice core, the brighter the colors here, the orange, reds, and purples, and sometimes whites. Those are indicating that we have likely large to very large hail falling here. So they did warn it for quarter-size hail. It's going to be on a direct path here for South Haven down to Sedley. Eventually going to cross State Route 49 towards Suman and Coburg in the next about 10 or so minutes. Also downstream, we have Westville, Kingsford Heights, Hannah, and Wanata. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Cell down here is also warned for quarter-size hail, following very closely to the State Route 8 corridor, currently over the Couts area, heading toward La Crosse and eventually toward Knox and English Lake. New warning now incoming, a very large warning incoming for quarter-size hail. So all the warnings on your screen currently are strictly for hail that is up to a quarter size in diameter and winds that are less than 50 miles per hour. So overall concern here for anything other than hail for these storms right now is quite low. Simply a hail threat with this. So this new warning includes Plymouth, Culver, Knox, Hamlet, and North Judson areas. Correction on our last cycle through our chasers. We do have Steven. He is in Plymouth, Indiana, and he is right ahead of this cell that is heading basically just probably south of Plymouth. So he'll be in line for this next, we're going to say 20 minutes or so to intercept and give us a good visual on what this storm is going to be doing. So we'll have him up and ready to go. And just so the chasers know, I want to say this to them real quick. Whenever you guys have a good shot you want me to take, let me know, please. So 3 warnings, technically 4 warnings out there now, but for 2 storms. Also monitoring the storms down here further south toward Remington and Fowler. They do have a decent looking hail core on them, but there is no warning yet for these cells. So we'll keep a close eye as they progress toward the Winnemac, Logansport, Monticello area over the next 10 to 15 minutes. I would not be shocked to see another warning incoming here for these cells. Our focus, though, will be up here on the 2 cells that are warned. The hail core is now moving in toward La Crosse, as well as Wilders, Lomax, Riverside, and English Lake neighborhoods, as well as Runnymede. The hail core up here is now entering the South Haven area. It's basically over South Haven right now because these storms are going 75 miles per hour off to the east. So they're moving very quickly, very rapidly. So they're not going to take long if you're over here, for example, out ahead of this in Plymouth or Culver or even, we're going to say Bourbon area. They're not going to take long to reach you. They're moving very quickly. So prepare now. Now is the time to get your cars in their garages. Any storm tonight will have potential for large to very large hail. That's quarter size to as much as golf ball, perhaps some storms producing close to baseball size hail. Hopefully that's more isolated and hopefully you don't see it at all. But the larger the hail will be upwards of about golf ball size for the majority of these storms. Otherwise, anything large will be isolated. Michaela will be live for quite a while here. I plan to be live probably through about 10 to 11 o'clock, so about 4 or 5 hours, depending on when the threat starts to diminish. As long as storms start calming down a little bit, we'll be probably off of here. Again, the risk that we've been calling for and highlighting has been across this northern half of Indiana between 6 and 10 p.m. primarily. After that, the threat should drop off gradually, and after midnight, it should be dropping off almost completely as we get close to the I-70 corridor. So right now, the plan is to be live through about between probably 10 and 11 o'clock. That could change based on what's happening and stuff. So we could end early, we could end a little bit later. Play it by ear. We'll be live for a while. If you're out here, with Muncie included, but out here ahead of these storms, Muncie up to Fort Wayne, Huntington area, up toward Auburn, you guys have a bit, but again, these storms are moving very quickly. So don't be shocked to see these storms be on top of you in about an hour. Prepare now. They're heading your way. But right now you are all clear, so I'm not going to be taking questions or very many questions for the east side of the state. We'll focus on those towns when and if they are impacted here in another hour to 2 hours. This is now starting to kind of form into a broken line, which is kind of the question we've been asking ourselves, is this going to happen or not? We talked about this on the briefing on our videos. If storms remain isolated, it's more of a hail threat. But if they move into a line like this is looking like it may do here shortly, this may be turning into more of a wind threat. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Overall, though, these storms right now are all warned for hail. There's no wind threat right now. There's no tornado risk that we see with these storms. All these warnings have 1-inch hail, which is quarter size, or less at that point. So that's all we're really focused on right now. Turning on the hail tracker here once again. Looks like the cell up in the northern Lake County area heading into Porter County has weakened on the hail core. But as you can see down here, the cell between Couts and Wheatfield is strengthened a little bit. So the hail core down on the southern cell has intensified. Also want to take note for the southern cells as well. They're not currently warned, but each cell does have a decent hail core showing up. So still be alert. South of Rensselaer, so Remington area, Fowler, Boswell, heading up toward Monon, Monticello, Brookston areas. You guys need to be on alert because these cells will likely have hail, perhaps close to quarter size in diameter. If not quarter size, probably peas to dimes, maybe pennies or nickels mixed in there as well. So we'll have to see if they put a warning on it. We've been talking about that for about 15 minutes or so. So they may warn it, but right now we'll have to kind of play it by ear. But I don't want to let you guys go unaware because it does look like it has hail on it. Excuse me. Believe it or not, more personal note here. Believe it or not, I've had flu for like 4 weeks ago, and I'm still coughing from the remnants of that. It's not bad, but if I have to stop to cough, that is why. Take a cycle through our chasers again here in just a second. I'm getting logged into my dashboard here so I can type updates to the page if need be. Make sure I'm good to go with that, which looks like I am, will be shortly at least. There we go. I am good. Not yet. Now I'm good. Okay. Let's cycle through our chasers here real quick. We got Caleb out there in the field. He is, again, Huntington, Indiana, over on the east side, which is just southwest of Fort Wayne. So he's got about an hour before storms impact him. We have Steven out there as well as Drew. We'll go in order. Have Drew out there. He is in Grand Rapids, Ohio. So he is going to be in our neighbors to the east of us. And we also have Steven, who is out and about ahead of this severe cell heading toward Plymouth, Indiana. Let's go ahead and get Steven pulled up. He is on, looks like a highway there, so we'll have a close look at him once these storms get closer to him. We also have Corey, who's not out just yet, but he will be out a little bit later. A new warning now incoming for Benton and Newton counties until 6:45. Looks like they're going quarter-size hail as, again, the only hazard with this cell. So this is going to be this new yellow polygon here. It includes Brook, Kentland, Goodland, Earl Park, Raub, Radina, and Aid, as well as Forsman. US 41, State Route 55, north-south highways here. This is going to be for the northwest corner of the state. Again, for the cell in Watseka, Illinois, this is what's warned. And they're going to go, once again, quarter-size hail as the only concern with this cell. So the wind remains below 50. So, for example, severe criteria for wind is 58 miles per hour or greater. 58 or greater. So 50 is not quite too severe. Could be still gusty, but not quite enough to, do damage to your homes or stuff like that. Porter County, Wheeler area, very hard rain and pea-sized hail, says Sherry. Thank you, Sherry, or Cherie. Not sure how to pronounce it, but thank you for your report. Valpo has hail now, small so far, pea-size. What are you guys seeing in chat? Let me know what you guys are seeing at your locations. That would help me out here at least. Is anybody getting large hail out there across the impacted areas? Feel free to chime in. Quiet in Warsaw. Okay, thank you, Margaret. Hail in Hobart. Got blue skies and clouds in Angola. Yeah, you got a little bit. You got some storms heading your way, though. We have some storms up in the southern Michigan area that look pretty intense as well. But they're heading down. May miss Angola to the north, but you got something heading your way there regardless. Beautiful sky in Middleton. Kokomo, nothing so far. Okay, thank you for that. Definitely looking a little bit more messy than what models are showing, which is, I think, a good thing overall for the very large hail threat. But my concern for the damaging wind part of this is a little bit increasing here with these storms because, as you can see, they're kind of trying to congeal into a line here as these move off to the east. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. If they can grow up scale into a one big line, it may turn into a wind threat over here toward the Fort Wayne east side of the state, really. So something to keep a close eye on. Right now, wind is not a huge concern with these storms just due to the overall elevated nature, which is they're on the cold side of the cold front, and they're not really have anything going for them in terms of the wind at this point. But if they congeal, they'll have a little bit more going for them. We have Corey now live with us as well. He is in Winchester, Indiana. He's on the east side. He is getting in position as well. So we have 4 or 5 chasers out and about tonight who are going to give us views here. We also have Steven out there in the Plymouth, Indiana area. This cell is heading towards Steven, so he's getting closer and closer to it. So Steven's going to be our first eyes on the ground for these storms. Looking as well at our weather camera network, there's not much going on here. We do have a visual here. I'll go ahead and pull this in real quick. I'll go ahead and take my screen back here, and I will go ahead and share this with you guys. The Wells Street Beach camera at Lake Michigan up in Gary does have a decent shot of some darker clouds looking towards Chicago there. You got some light rain falling as well. Looking to the east, we can see the cells moving away. But overall, looks like just some rainy skies there. It was raining a bit heavier earlier, but right now it just looks like it's just some ordinary rain showers up there in Gary as these storms push off to the east. So we'll go ahead and leave that back here. Take back the radar. All of the warnings out there you see are going to be only for quarter-size hail. There's no wind threat. There's no tornado threat with any of these storms at the current moment. They did go ahead and upgrade, not really upgrade, but they went ahead and confirmed the hail size off of the cell in Valparaiso. Looks like they confirmed quarter-size hail somewhere in the Valparaiso area with this cell. Well, I mentioned we have cells going up now in the Bristol Middlebury area, heading towards Shipshewana and LaGrange. Not severe there, but we do have a upgrade or a new updated warning, I believe, for the Knox and Plymouth area. Looks like my radar software is being a little buggy once again this evening. Nothing new here. It's been happening all year long. some of these warnings are not going to be dropping off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch this to my cameras here. I'm going to restart this app here very quickly. See if I can get the updated warnings to drop off, because I don't want you guys thinking you're under a warning when it's really not. I guess there was no update, so we'll leave it up there. Perfect. I was thinking that maybe, just maybe, this back end warning for Lake County was expired by now, but it looks like they haven't done that, so we'll keep it as is. So, update here on the cells. We have a nice hail core, maybe just outside the warning, even down here by Ripley and Beardstown, heading up toward Culver and Plymouth. I want to take Steven here, keep a close eye on Steven, because this is approaching him fairly rapidly here. It looks like he's parked on a side road around the Plymouth area. So we'll go ahead and just kind of sit here and watch Steven's stream for a little bit. Again, all these storms that are currently warned are warned for quarter-size hail, and that is the only hazard. Pretty much as we expected with these first initial cells. We may see a brief tornado risk develop, but that'll be on the southern flank of this line, but right now it looks really unorganized, so I'm not really concerned for that in the short term, at least. Jen says, Porter County getting hail. Thank you for that report. If you guys have reports, feel free to drop it in chat. I do occasionally look at chat, but as a reminder, I am focused on our chasers in my ear, the radar, as well as data that's being relayed behind the scenes. So I'm not going to always have a chance to look at chat and answer your guys' questions, but I do like to do it when I do have the time. And so when you do have questions, I will answer them if it catches my eye. No problem, Margaret. I'm a little bit surprised, but also not surprised based on the latest data that there was no warning, or is no warning, for these cells further south here entering Monticello and Otterbein right now. I feel like I butchered that pronunciation of Otterbein. I probably did butcher it. But overall, we're looking at a nice, right now, a subdued hail threat, because these cells are not by themselves like models suggested they would be, which is good. But we still have reports of quarter-size hail occurring up in Porter County still. And we also have several reports of, it appears to be dime-sized hail coming in from most of these cells. So right now, at least, the hail threat is looking like it's not quite reaching its maximum potential right now, but that could change here in a matter of a few minutes. So we'll see. Warnings are in effect currently for the northern part of Porter County. I'm going to pop this on real quick. Northern half of Porter County, we have Stark and Marshall counties, as well as northern Fulton County, under a severe warning, as well as northern Pulaski. We also have the southern part of Newton and the northern part of Benton underneath the warning. All these warnings are for hail. There is no tornado or wind risk at this current time. Let's go ahead and refresh Steven here, get a nice little clear image, at least try to. Looks like it's out of focus. Steven, can you try to focus your camera, please? Yeah, it went back into focus. You're good now. When you have bugs in your windshield, it definitely makes it harder for your camera to focus. So it's probably going to come in and out of focus. Thank you. Update for Middlebury, I can definitely do that. Looks like the cell is moving past you right now. So at the current moment, you guys are about to clear the worst of it, but Shipshewana is entering the worst of it now. So Middlebury itself, on the backside of it, probably hear some thunder, lightning, light rain, but overall the worst of it now entering Shipshewana, Sieberts, as well as Howe and LaGrange in a few minutes here, down toward Emma as well. New warning now, a big warning coming in. Yeah, that's a very large warning. For looks like several counties here. Let's go ahead and pop this on your screen. Once again, quarter-size hail, the only hazard with this storm. So looking at this, we're going to hop this on your screen. It says the Weather Service in North Indiana has issued a warning. Wabash, Fulton, Pulaski, Kosciuszko, Miami, Stark, and Marshall. 7 counties. That's a big warning. Until 6:45 p.m. Eastern, 5:45 p.m. Central. Basically says quarter-sized hail is radar indicated and the impact is damage to vehicles is expected. There is no tornado or wind risk with these cells at the current moment. So once again, hail is your only concern. the hail tracker, and there you go. I was going to be questioning that, but looks like the worst of the storms are going to be these two right there. Just got warned. This is your hail tracker. Anything that shows up with the orange, red, purple, and sometimes white is a very large hail core. In this case, it is looking like a pretty potent core here just to the south of North Judson over Denham, moving in toward Bass Station, Bass Lake, Aura, Beardstown, heading toward Monterey, Culver, as well as DeLong. The southern part of this is heading up probably just south of Winnemac. Winnemac may squeeze between these two hail cores, heading toward US 35 here toward Thornhope, Grass Creek, as well as Pulaski and Kewanna. So we may sneak by here in Winnemac, but still there is a hail core directly in Winnemac right now. But the larger hail appears to be just to the north and just to the south of Winnemac. So probably, if I had to guess, penny-sized hail at most in the Winnemac area, perhaps peas to pennies. That'd be my guess. This definitely appears to be the worst of these cells. Also want to keep a close eye up here for this cell heading toward LaGrange and Angola. It does look like it is intensifying, so I would not be shocked to see a warning placed on that. Let's go ahead and check the hail tracker on that. Nothing too much there, but Middlebury is definitely probably getting some small hail, or did get some small hail. And I'd say LaGrange is up on deck for that. So if you're in LaGrange, not severe hail just yet, but likely some smaller to perhaps medium-sized hail heading your direction. Stephen is going to be repositioning here. He is in Argos, Indiana, which is going to be just to the south of Plymouth. He is going to be dropping... Get a repeat from him. Where are you headed at? Excuse me. Stephen, where are you headed at? Okay, he's heading south like I thought he was. So he's going to be heading south. So for reference, Stephen is chasing right here in Argos, which is up on the top right of your screen. He's heading south toward Rochester. He's going to try and get probably between like Walnut area for the cell as it progresses to his east towards him. And he will likely see what size hail is actually verifying here in this warning. So looks like the worst of the hail core is going to be heading directly toward that Walnut Argos area, but also want to pay attention to this cell down here just south of Pulaski, because this also looks like it's heading right for Rochester. So if you live in Rochester, now is your time. You have just enough time to run outside, put your car in the garage, get back inside if you can do so. But you do have some hail heading your direction. The warning is for quarter-size hail. The environment today does indicate we could have some larger than quarter-size hail falling, but right now haven't had any confirmation of that. So far has just been dimes to quarter-size for the majority of these storms, which is great news. But still, potential is there as the atmosphere is primed for that large, very large hail tonight. Intense lightning in Culver, says Tammy. Thank you for that report. How is South Bend looking right now? South Bend is impacted by just some general, I'm going to call it garden variety rain and thunderstorms. There's no hail core that I see on that South Bend cell, but you guys are going to have probably a lot of loud thunder and some heavy rain for a bit. But right now with that cell over you, there is no hail core. And the one behind it as well over LaPorte, a bit more of a core, but not really a huge concern that I'm seeing based on this data at my fingertips. And looking at the hail tracker, there's not much there. There is a lot, though, on this cell that is warned further south here. So we have an intensifying hail core here heading to Culver, Argos, Walnut, and Rochester areas down toward Fulton as well. This is quite possibly pushing quarter to $half size in nature. I do not have my advanced radar product. For some reason, the feed is not working. So I can't look at the height of those cells to really help me kind of get an idea of what's happening. But I do want to take note that this is likely quarters or perhaps just slightly larger than quarters heading toward Argos, Walnut, and Rochester areas. Updated warning, looks like they expired it, which is good news. They're going to let it expire at the time given. Not going to extend it, which is really good news. Also want to keep a close eye back here for this warning heading up into Kentland, Sheffield, Raub, as well as Earl Park areas. It is warned for quarter-size hail. The hail tracker on that does suggest there could be some larger hailstones pushing into that area shortly, but doesn't look off the charts like the other cell up here is over Winnemac. Again, this warning that we're covering for the Winnemac area extends out toward Warsaw, Milford, as well as Akron. We do have the southern part of Stark, Marshall, most of Kosciuszko County, most of Fulton, and the eastern half of Pulaski underneath that warning until 6:45, I believe it was. Yeah, 6:45 p.m. Eastern time. So this is going to go for another 23 minutes. Very nasty looking hail core heading right into Rochester. If you are in Rochester, I'd be prepared for some pretty large hail. If you're between Rochester and the storm, Keweenaw, I believe that's how it's pronounced, or Kawana, right along State Route 14 and Bruce Lake. Looking at some roads here, we're going to zoom way in. West 200 south is that west-east road. South 400 north, or south 400 west is that road. We have County Road 150 south. There are just a couple of the roads here out ahead of this. This is going to be heading up toward Bruce Lake, Pershing, and basically on a beeline toward downtown Rochester. Again, this is just a hail risk. I do not see a risk for damaging wind or tornadoes at this current time. There's nothing indicating that this is tornadic or damaging wind. We could have some gusty winds, but likely below severe criteria if those do exist with these cells. The main concern here is hail. As noted here by the hail tracker, the brighter the colors, the worse the hail is. We're going to see a couple areas there getting close to maxing out, and that's heading right up toward the Rochester area. But aside from Rochester, we also have areas up toward Argos, Walnut, all along US 31 here. Tiosa, Talma, Big Hill, Athens, Wagoneer, or I'll leave it at Wagoneer. Green Oak area, as well as the Big Hill. Also the airport there, Fulton County Airport, in line for this hail core. So hopefully this kind of either weakens or deviates a bit. But Rochester appears to be right center aligned for that. Plymouth itself looks to be on the northern fringe. You'll have lightning and some heavy rain, but the worst of it appears to be off to your south. Bourbon on the line there. You could have some hail there, about 15 or so minutes. Warsaw, you are next on deck, as well as Akron. Be prepared for some larger hail moving in your direction next 20 or so minutes. Right now, the biggest concern, biggest population area is going to be Rochester. All right, latest scan here on the hail tracker does not look good. We have a pretty potent looking blob of hail on the hail tracker now, directly over Lake Bruce, heading in toward, we're going to call it basically downtown Rochester here. Pershing, Leaders Ford, Tiosa, Talma, State Route 25 here, Athens, Wagoneer, Big Hill, as well as Green Oak area. This is probably, I'm probably going to guess quarter-size hail at least falling or potentially falling with this storm. Again, I don't have the advanced radar data. The feed is down for everybody, it seems like, today. Not just me, but for everybody. So I can't look at how tall that hail core is to get a good idea of how large this hail could be. So I'm just basically guessing based off what I'm seeing on the radar here, as well as our hail tracker, which is, it's not a good sign, but I can't give a for sure answer based off the advanced radar being down, which is unfortunate today. But again, Rochester, be inside away from windows. This is likely at least quarter-size hail moving to your direction. The purple and the blacks on your radar. Even though it's a thin strip, it's not going to last too long, but it could and likely will pack a punch as it goes over you. Does anybody in chat live in the impacted areas from Monterey down toward Lake Bruce or Kawana down to Grass Creek? Anybody who could tell me how large the hail was, all the way back to Winnemac even. If you guys have reports here in chat, I see a lot of people saying pea-size hail in Monterey. I also see a couple people saying we had pea-size hail in Wanata. Okay, that's a little bit better, but I still think the radar suggests a little bit larger than that. Under pea-size hail, says Tim in North Judson. Hail in LaPorte, pea-size. We were just talking about that cell up here in LaPorte. And you guys do have a nice little core that passed over you, so that verifies nicely. Also keeping a close eye on the LaGrange cell. Not currently warned yet, but still could intensify here for a hail threat there in a minute. These cells are actually heading my direction, so I'll have to keep a close eye on that. Hopefully I don't go under a warning or lose my power, which I don't expect that to happen. But in the event the stream goes down, I'll be back. Just be patient. Again, main concern out of all the storms in Indiana is the cell heading into Rochester. Current time is 6:27 p.m. Eastern. The storm is over State Route 14, Lake Bruce, Bruce Lake, Kawana. New update here. It is going to be basically a beeline, as we kind of called this out here, into the Rochester area. So again, Rochester, you have about 5 minutes before impact here. Again, if you're anywhere around Rochester, you're going to be in the line as well, down here toward Green Oak, Wagoneer, or is it Wagoneer or is it Wagoner? Athens, Big Hill, all the way up here to, we'll say, Tiosa, Walnut, and Richland Center areas. The worst of it is looking like it's heading perhaps into Rochester and perhaps just a tad bit south of Rochester here. So State Route 25 here near Green Oak in the US 31 interchange. It's not looking like a good situation. So again, Rochester, I'm hoping that this hail is not as large as radar suggests, but I would say probably quarters to $half are potentially falling in this cell. What about Lafayette? We can go ahead and head south here just for a minute. Lafayette, there's no warning down here for you guys. There is a cell heading your direction, but it looks to stay to your north. A secondary cell is behind it, heading more so towards you guys in Lafayette. That is warned on the Illinois side for 60-mile-per-hour winds as well as a quarter-size hail. But overall, the concern for Lafayette for severe weather right now, it would be on the north side, but also looks to be a little bit more subdued in nature. Starting the hail tracker there. There is a good hail core, but comparing it to this up here, it's kind of smaller and not as intense in nature. So wouldn't be shocked to see a downstream warning issued for Battleground or Delphi, for example. But definitely main concern is up there in Rochester here, just a matter of minutes. New warning or an update to the warning is going to be for the Sheffield, Earl Park, and Wadena areas. This small hail core just crossed the US 41, heading in toward Goodland and Remington areas in a matter of minutes. So do take note of that. Be inside away from windows. Quarter-size hail is your only hazard with that storm. The update here, the next scan should tell us what's happening in Rochester, or about to happen in Rochester. So we're going to keep our focus in right here at the current time. I do want to keep an eye on also Steven's stream. He is right ahead. He's actually just south of Rochester right now, I believe. So he's going to be basically right in line with this cell. And hopefully he finds some shelter here. Excuse me. So next scan came in here. We are about a mile out from Rochester being impacted. But aside from Rochester, we do have the north-south expansion of this hail core. So if all the way up into Walnut area, Richland Center, Pershing, all the way down here toward Fulton and Macy areas will be likely be impacted by hail. The worst of it appears to be heading in toward Rochester. This is going to be the worst of it on radar, at least, heading right in toward the Rochester area. I'll pull up the radar here for you guys to see. There you go. That is the worst of it. And as you can see, Rochester on your screen right there. Talking about our chasers behind the scenes there. So Steven's going to be probably intercepting this on US 31. He's talking about the light difference on the right side of your screen being so light, and that storm is just blocking out all the light altogether. So don't be shocked as well if you see a more so greenish tint to the storms tonight. With the sun going down here another hour or two, we're going to notice that that sun angle can really tint the sky different colors. So don't be shocked. A yellowish or greenish color with these storms are going to be common tonight, or perhaps may be common. That doesn't mean tornadoes. It just means that the sun angle is right, reflecting on some either hail or some raindrops there, giving us that green hue to it. But he's going to intercept this Rochester cell somewhere around 31 here shortly. So we're going to get a good idea from Stephen reporting in my ear, as well as on camera here, of how large this hail actually is. And I'm crossing our fingers that it's not too large. Radar does suggest that it is quite large, but again, from you guys here in chat, it does appear to be pea-size back about 10 miles to the west. The latest update on radar does not look good. I don't want to show this, but that is a hail core heading directly into Rochester. That's your hail tracker. So again, hopefully it's all just kind of dimes to nickel size hail. Hopefully the larger hail is not as potent. The warning is continued for quarter size hail, so there's no upgrade, which is good news from the SPC. They're not getting, or sorry, from the Weather Service, they're not getting confirmed reports at this time of anything larger, which is really, really good news. Looks like a report of P to quarter size hail that occurred just to the west of Rochester a little bit ago as well. So hopefully the worst case scenario is avoided here, but right now this is heading right into Rochester here. The worst of it may be on the south side of town. It's going to head into the Big Hill neighborhood and perhaps just brush Athens and the Fulton County Airport. Either way, they're going to get impacted by some hail there. There's a hail core regardless, but the worst of it, the black colors there, indicate the worst is passing just off to the south. Also pay attention as well, not right now at least, but with this kind of turning into a little bit of a Boeing segment, may have some wind concerns if that continues to kind of push its way to the east. So we'll have to watch the wind threat with this cell as well. No rotation so far, Caitlin. Everything so far has been just purely hail and maybe a little bit gusty winds, but nothing severe wind-wise at this current time. This cell up in Angola is also strengthening as well. No warning on that yet. Would not be shocked if it got one. The hail core is intensifying up there, heading out of LaGrange into, I believe it's Steuben County up here in northeast Indiana. So Angola, as well as Pleasant Lake area, Flint, Stroh, Ellis, Alvarado, Russell's Point. Be alert. Storm with potentially some small to medium-sized hail. Potential for larger hail as well with that storm as it progresses to the east-southeast. The cells to the south, not warned. This cell up here just north of Fowler is warned, but doesn't look as intense as our other cells. New warning incoming looks like. They're going to go 60-mile-per-hour wind, so our first warning with wind finally. This is going to be close to the warm sector as well, which makes a little bit more sense why we're getting wind as a concern. It's going to be for the Williamsport area, as well as West Lebanon, Kramer, Judyville, Hedrick, I'm not sure how you guys pronounce it, Shadeland. It's going to include Lafayette downtown as well, down here toward Linden, New Richmond, Wingate, as well as Graham and Stone Bluff areas. The hazard is quarter-size hail, 60 mile-per-hour winds, which is severe. Expires in 40 minutes, so we'll keep a close eye on that. That is your cell currently over Alvin, Illinois, heading toward Hedrick, Indiana. Latest scan, the hail core is now directly in Rochester. How many of you guys watching in Rochester can help me out with how large the hail is? Do so safely. Obviously, be away from windows till the storm passes. Once the storm passes, which won't be long, I would suggest, or at least ask you guys to safely report your hail size if you can do so safely. If you're south by 70 tonight, the threat for severe weather is on the lower end of things. New severe alert coming in. Looks like quarter-size hail. We just got done talking about that cell, and lo and behold, there they go. New warning now for the Angola region. We just talked about this cell. Another severe warning coming in now. We'll go back to that here in just a second. But new warning for the Angola, Hudson areas. And we also have Stephen in the hail core. So we're going to take Stephen here. He is, I believe, either just off US 31. Ooh, yeah. Looks like at least dimes, if not nickels. You can see on his hood there bouncing. Am I right to assume dimes or a little bit larger? Okay, copy. So he's reporting pea size right now. That's good. The initial little bounce we saw there did look like a little bit larger than that, so I'm kind of surprised, which is really good. But we'll keep an eye on Steven here for a couple minutes. Also want to say Angola, underneath that warning, it is going to be for hail up to a quarter size in diameter. It includes Pleasant Lake, Hudson, Steubenville, Russell's Point, Alvarado, Metz up toward Page and York, all the way into our friends in Northwest Ohio, over toward Fayette, Archbold, and West Unity, as well as Stryker and Bryan, Ohio. Copy. Reporting some larger stones mixed in with the peas, but largely looks like pea-size hail here in Rochester for Steven. Anybody in chat as well wants to report their piece or any size hail, really, feel free to do so. I asked for it like 3 minutes ago. I may have missed some of your guys. I see some reports of peas as well, but if you guys have reports of hail, feel free to go ahead and send it in to me here in chat. I would appreciate that. Looks like the hail core is starting to wrap up there on Steven's stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take back my radar as Steven's going to reposition. We're going to take a peek back at radar, and we're going to take a look here at this new warning. Had 2 new warnings come in, and now a third. So we're going to go over all this here in just a second. So the first warning, like I said, Angola, you have about 5 minutes before a hail core moves into your direction. That is that purple on radar. That's moving to the east with a little bit southward movement. Pleasant Lake, Russell's Point also in the mix for this hail. And again, that's going to be up to quarter size in diameter. That's the new warning number 1. New warning number 2 down here, the extension of the current cell we're tracking out of Rochester, luckily has been less than really pea-sized to quarter-size hail being reported out of the cell. Nothing larger, which is really good news, but Akron on deck for that. This warning extends now to Columbia City, South Whitley, and Huntington areas, as well as North Manchester. So keep an eye on that as well. That warning also includes, I want to say, Whitley, Wabash. I'm trying to see all these counties here. Whitley, Wabash, Huntington, as well as Kosciuszko counties. New warning down here. We had a couple of them come in. We had this one that came in. We already covered that one. The new warning here looks like we have a new warning now down toward Russiaville, as well as Frankfort, Rossville. It's going to be over Battleground just to the north of Lafayette right now. Take the Indiana radar. It looks like downtown Lafayette is missing out on the worst just to the north. This is over Battleground heading toward Rossville here, but new warning there. It's going to be for 60-mile-per-hour winds as well as quarter-size hail. That's going to be for the counties of Howard, the west part of Howard, the south part of Carroll, most of Clinton, as well as most all of Tippecanoe County is included in that warning. So we have several warnings now going off. Most of these are for hail. The southern ones down here in the Lafayette area are also warned for wind, and that is largely because the warm sector, the warm air the storms need to produce wind and tornadoes, is kind of sitting further south. The boundary for that, if I can find it, was on radar here a couple of hours ago. It still is actually. But the boundary for that appears to be somewhere along the lines of right here. So the storms over here are further away in the cold sector, but the ones down here have a chance to kind of overshoot that front. So that's why the wind threat exists further south with those storms. Again, no rotation we're seeing on these storms at all at this current time. But I do want to mention... Get this off my screen. There we go. Do want to mention that there is a possibility that if the cell does overshoot that cold front, it could produce a tornado, but right now that threat is looking quite low in nature. Current time is 6:40 p.m. Eastern, 5:40 p.m. Central. I am Ryan, and this is the Indiana Weather Network. We have chasers in the field as well as coverage here in the studio with our radar software, so we do have you guys covered here. We'll let you guys know if you need to take shelter. If you're under a warning, it's a good idea to take shelter regardless. Hail has been the only threat and risk so far, which is really good news. But the risk is not over. We do have more cells developing down here in Illinois. Keep a close eye on those for hail. But right now, this threat has largely been just quarter-size hail, nothing larger. So not a huge event so far. We have a couple more hours left to go. We did predict 6 to about 10 p.m. as the main window, but these storms are hauling through the state, so this threat may be a quicker threat. The storms will continue likely throughout the later part of the night, but the threat may diminish a little bit earlier on, which is our hope. We'll have to see and play it by ear. I'm going to pay attention to chat here. Let me know where you're watching from, and if you are under a warning or experience a storm, let me know how large the hail was or anything else you experienced. I am interested to hear your guys' reports. No problem, Nikki. I also saw a super chat from, looks like R. Gates says, thank you. Appreciate you for your support of the YouTube channel and also the page here at IWN. Appreciate your support greatly. Kokomo, Indiana is about a half hour to an hour away from impact. And again, the only concern that I have at the current time is hail. We may see a wind threat on the very southern flank of this line, but right now, Kokomo, I would say just a hail risk for you guys. Leesburg, the lightning is starting, says Renee. Thank you, Renee, for that report. Talking to our chasers behind the scenes there. Take a peek at Caleb here. Caleb would be next in line in the Huntington area. He's in the warning now. He's heading, I assume, west. Caleb, do you have a copy on the radio? He'll be in the storm's path here. He's in the path, but he'll be in the storm in probably 20 or so minutes. Let's take a peek at Drew as well. Drew's out there. He's in Rudolph, Ohio. He is now coming back into Indiana. So he'll be in these storms as well soon enough. We also have Corey as well as Steven out there. Here's Corey's view. He is going to be up, it appears to be in Portland, Indiana. Still on the east side of the state, but he is getting in position for the west part of the state. Also have Steven, who just intercepted pea-sized hail in the Rochester, Indiana area with a little bit of larger stones mixed in. So overall with Steven reporting the best case scenario out of Rochester, it appeared that we had some larger hailstones pushing toward Rochester, but luckily was not as intense as it could have been. We do have a report from a trained spotter in Rochester of 1-inch hail that is now confirmed. So we had up 2 quarters. So we did have severe hail fall. We also have a report of wind damage. A large tree is down State Route 17 and 1227 north. So we did talk about that Boeing segment producing some wind there. That was likely a result of that little Boeing bow and arrow type of situation we had with that storm as it pushed toward Rochester. The good news, going back to the radar here, the good news is that cell did not really push out much in the way of the bow. What I'm talking about there, I'll go ahead and back this up and show you guys. Back it up right about here. You see how this is kind of bowed out where you kind of have this as like a curve? That would indicate we could have some wind associated with some storms. So we had the, looks like the concern or the wind was reported more so back here. Excuse me. So it looks like that did produce some wind damage as it did bow there for a brief second. But overall, this storm has passed Rochester now. It is over Akron, and the hail core has diminished. But also keep in mind, if this has a very tall hail core, if you're in Akron area, you guys likely are seeing more so fallout of the hail. So hail can bounce up in the atmosphere, up and down for quite some time, which is how it grows. But when the storms kind of lose their updraft, which is kind of what we're seeing here, the larger hailstones can start falling to the ground more easily. So we could have some larger hail still falling here in Akron area, up toward Burkett, down toward Birmingham and Gilead. But overall, it appears that the hail core has weakened some as it heads towards South Whitley, which is really good news. So best case scenario there. I do want to say the hail core up here just out of Angola heading toward Alvarado and Russell's Point has intensified. Very far northeast corner of the state in Steuben County. This is going to be for Metz, Alvarado down to Russell's Point, as well as State Route 427, Courtney Corner, Berlin, as well as York areas. So those areas also getting in on likely some larger hailstones with this storm. I will turn on the hail tracker as well. Largely, we have seen these similar pictures of the purples here indicating some larger hail, but has been reported as P a quarter. So hopefully this storm is well following suit up to quarter-size hail, probably falling with this storm as it heads more so into Ohio shortly. But looks like Russell's Point, Penn Park, Fountain Park about to take a direct hit from this hail core. It's going to follow very close to State Route 1 as well as 4A. I'm not sure what the road here is officially called. Looks like County Road 4A. But that's going to be the general direction of this storm as it moves more so to the east and south. The hail core down here in Akron has definitely decreased, but still has enough to warrant concern for at least P to perhaps nickel size. And maybe some isolated quarters in there as well. I'm going to rest my voice here for a brief minute. You've just crossed 1 hour of being live. We'll be live for the most part, but I will say this. If storms continue to show signs of weakness through the evening, I may end this early. There's no reason for me to hop on here and talk about, golf ball size hail or tornadoes or damaging wind when there's not much going on. So we'll play it by ear here, but right now, best case scenario is played out so far. It's still early. It's only 6:47. But so far, so good here across North Indiana with the initial storms. Caleb is in Roanoke, so he's getting in position for the severe cell. This is a cell we just talked about weakening here coming out of Rochester. There's your look at it. So Roanoke would be up here. So he's somewhere in that vicinity, and the cell has about probably 20 minutes still to get to him. Going south, we have a nice hail core heading in toward Rossville as well as Lexington and Sedalia over the Piermont area as well as Owasco. This warning is for quarter-size hail and wind up to 60 miles per hour. The cell down here heading into Williamsport, same thing applies. Quarter-size hail, 60 mile per hour winds. I do not see any reports out of those two cells, which is good news. I only have 3 reports so far of large hail. I have one in Pulaski County, one in Fulton, and one up in Lake County. Also have a wind report as well. So 4 severe reports so far have occurred. I do see a report up in the Angola region of, looks like nickel or penny size hail. Sorry, penny size hail. I'll keep an eye on that. Excuse me. I do want to kind of move our attention back up here to Angola. The hail core on the bottom of this cell over Russell's Point does not look good. Excuse me. That could be some larger than quarter size hail falling there based on radar reflectivity. I actually just got my radar update back so I can actually take a peek at how high this goes. So give me 1 second. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good core on this storm. The cell heading into Ohio, it's actually heading into Ohio shortly. But if you guys live in this far northeast corner of Steuben County of Indiana here, likely very large hail falling. On radar, it appears anywhere between quarters and $half, perhaps a little bit larger than that. Hopefully it's not as large, but this does have a nice core up to about 30,000 feet or so, which would support a little bit larger than quarter size hail falling in the core of this. So keep that in mind. Directly over Russell's Point, it's going to be heading into Ohio very shortly, following 4A as well as State Route 427, going just to the south or brushing Alvarado. The warning still showing quarter size hail as your hazard, so nothing to be concerned about other than the actually there's a wind threat with this as well. So wind also a concern with this storm, likely due to a downburst ongoing there. So that could just kind of hail falls and kind of spreads outwards as it hits the ground. It's not a good widespread threat, but it is a threat nonetheless. We had a 53 mile per hour wind gust at Lafayette. So that is still sub-severe, which is 58 miles per hour or greater. This hail core will be out of the state here in about 2 minutes. So again, if you're a lucky viewer or unlucky viewer that's living in this 3 square mile radius here up in Steuben County, as well as the northeast corner of DeKalb County, you guys have a very potent hail core that is over you. Further south, though, this warning heading in toward where Caleb's at in the Huntington Wabash area, it does appear that this has weakened considerably. There's really no wind with it as well. It's just quarter-size hail that I'm seeing as a potential threat, but even then, there's no definitive hail core. Looking at the hail tracker, we see definitely some indications of some smaller hail, but nothing that was as concerning as earlier. Going south here, we're going to go back here toward Rossville. We're going to take a peek down here at the Indianapolis radar. Decent hail core moving into the Adams Mills, Lexington area here, just north of Rossville and Sedalia. Checking out the velocity on this, we could have some gustier winds with it as well, though the winds do not really line up that great. Typically, you want to see the bright greens overlapping with the heavier, overlapping the greater DBZ, the brighter colors here as well. So the fact it's kind of displaced off tells me it's more of an outflowish type of signature or clutter. So I don't think wind is that great with this, but I will mention it just in case. Also, the concern down here toward Williamsport is moving toward the Odell area as well as Wingate and Newton areas. This storm has been over Williamsport for the greater half of the last couple of minutes. I'm back this up here. So it has slowed down just a tad bit. The text of this warning says they're moving to the east at 55, so a little bit slower. If you guys caught the first half of the stream here, we talked about storms as they first entered the state, moving 75 miles per hour. So 55 is not as fast, but still pretty fast. So warnings continue here. We have Steuben and northern part of DeKalb County. We have southern Whitley, northern Huntington, northern Wabash, southern Kosciuszko, and the back half of Miami County. That Miami County is probably clear here shortly, so I'm not going to really have much concern there. West part of Howard, north part of Clinton, south part of Carroll, most of Tippecanoe County, all of Warren County, North Fountain, and northwest Montgomery counties, all underneath a severe warning for quarter-size hail and 60 mile per hour winds. All of the warnings now include wind. So it's not just a hail threat anymore. It's now wind and hail. Luckily, the cell up here in Steuben and DeKalb counties is now moving into Ohio. So that is really good news. Not for our friends in Ohio, but for us here in Indiana. You guys are going to be clear of that storm. But we do have more off to the west, so don't let your guard down just yet. They're not warned, but secondary round coming here from LaGrange down to North Webster. So Angola, don't let your guard down just yet. How large would you say? Okay, thank you. So Stephen's back in Rochester here, and he is reporting that hail has restarted here. He is directly in the town, and you can see the hail bouncing, actually. He's reporting P's up to dime-size hail with his little cell. It doesn't look intimidating on radar, but it just kind of goes to show you the environment today. Even the smaller-looking storms can still produce hail, and they are. So we're going to keep a close eye on that cell as well. It just popped up, so it may continue to intensify. So it's worth keeping an eye on. But Stephen in Rochester reporting P's to dimes once again, with a secondary cell that is directly over the city of Rochester. Hunter in chat says, what about Albion, Indiana? It's getting really dark. We just talked about Albion just a few minutes ago. Albion has some storms heading your direction. They're not currently severe, although they do look like potential that they could be on the stronger side. So don't let your guard down. No warnings for you, but you do have probably about 10 minutes or so before impact there in Albion. Hail will be your main risk, secondary risk of hail, or sorry, secondary risk of wind. I'm going to be texting our chasers here just a second. We'll take back the radar here. Before we do that, I want to check out Caleb's stream as well. He is still in Roanoke ahead of this storm, moving his direction. Is currently on the edge of the warning, it appears. The overall storm actually just got updated with the warning. They're going to continue the quarter-size hail as well as 60-mile-per-hour winds. That's going to be for the Huntington area as well as South Whitley, all the way down toward Andrews. Caleb will be on that storm here in just a few minutes. Back to me and the radar. The cell, luckily, has now pushed out of Indiana, but if you have any friends in Ohio, I know there's a couple of Ohio people who watch this channel as well. They added a $50 size tag to the storm, but also potential for a tornado over there in Ohio. I don't see on Velocity anything that looks tight on rotation, but if you live anywhere in this yellow polygon up in the northwest side of Ohio, Fulton, Henry, Defiance, and Williams County, all hazards with that cell as it progresses toward Toledo. So keep that in mind if you live over in that general vicinity. Further south, pay attention to the cells further south here. Looks like the Rossville cell, maybe the strongest one of the cells currently in the state. Still not seeing much of a wind risk with this cell. I think it's more so clutter with those brighter greens. But hail definitely a concern here. Let's check out the CC. That's kind of also cluttered too. Good hail core on both of these cells. Also appear by Wabash. I'll go back up there in a few seconds. But overall, this hail core heading toward Middle Fork and Russiaville. Not seeing rotation, not seeing wind with these storms as a threat. And that also applies to this one back here, just east of Williamsport, heading toward the Linden area. So it looks like it's just primarily a hail threat. And maybe a gusty wind threat as well, but the hail threat definitely higher than the wind. Just checking my sources behind the scenes here for information. I don't see anything pressing, which is honestly a good thing. Just got a message here in the chat from one of our viewers. I'm going to look at that real quick. If you guys have reports of damage, whether it's to trees, to your house, to vehicles, anything damage related, feel free to send us a message or drop a comment on our page. Not here in the live stream, but direct message us on Facebook, or you can just leave a comment on one of our previous posts on the page. A new warning now, a big warning coming in. This is going to be interesting. Let's talk about this. New warning now for Huntington, Bluffton, Decatur, Geneva, Portland, Montpelier, and Lancaster areas. This is a messy looking cell. The hazard is 60-mile-per-hour winds, quarter-size hail, but they tagged it as tornado possible. I'm not sure what they're seeing, if they see or have reports of something. I'm looking at velocity here. I don't see anything that sticks out to me rotation-wise, but they did have confidence enough to put the tag on there for a possible tornado. So counties include Adams, Jay, Blackford, Wells, Huntington, Wabash, and Grant counties. That warning goes for 45 minutes, so it expires at 7:45. And again, all hazards are possible, primarily hail. Not seeing anything on the wind side or tornado side of things, but I do want to keep that in mind. That's gonna be our cell that Caleb's on, actually. Let's check out Caleb's stream real quick. But again, not seeing anything on those two fronts, but hail definitely a concern with this cell. It's gonna be heading toward Huntington, Lancaster up first, Lincolnville, LaFontaine, Pleasant Plain, as well as Harlansburg here in a few minutes. Let's check out Caleb's stream. Whoa.
A new
Tornado
tornado
warning.
warning has been issued.
What are we seeing that I'm not seeing? New tornado warning incoming now. Let's talk about it. We talked about the southern flank of this line here producing or getting close to that warm sector. And this is likely a result of that. So let's talk about this in just a second. I'm going to get the graphic up on the page here momentarily. So do give me just one brief second to talk about this. Area of concern, if there was a tornado, would be near the Wingate area. So if you're in Wingate, Elmdale, or New Richmond, you guys need to be in immediate shelter right now. Head to your basement if you have one. If no basement, into your closet, away from windows on the lowest floor of your house is recommended. So make sure you guys take action. This is a tornado warning now for Montgomery, Fountain, and Tippecanoe County until 7:15 p.m. We'll talk about that in just a second. And honestly, it's actually verifying here. There is a little bit of a velocity increase there just between Wingate and Mellet areas. So there is something here. We did talk about that boundary a little bit earlier, how it was close to the warm sector where the storms need to produce tornadoes as well as some winds. So this is very close and likely in the warm sector now as this storm is rotating. So we'll keep a close eye on that here. But overall, the threat for a tornado elsewhere further north remains low because all those storms are in what we call the cold sector. Graphic is going on the page here, and we are good to go. Now we can dive into this. Perfect. So the area of interest is going to be heading into Wingate in a matter of about 2 minutes or so. Areas downstream: Elmdale, New Richmond, Linden, Cherry Grove, Darlington Woods, Darlington, Garfield, and Kirkpatrick. This is going to be the area of interest right here. The brighter blues and white colors there, the greens, whites, and blues. That's your increase of velocity and a little bit of rotation there as it heads toward New Richmond, Elmdale, and Wingate. So this is heading directly into Wingate. I don't see... Do I have my advanced radar working? I do. I'm going to get my 4-panel up and running so I can track this. The 4-panel look of things helps me track there's debris in the air as well as the updraft strength with the storm. So it gives me a better idea of if there's like anything on the ground or stuff like that. And right now I don't see anything debris-wise on this storm, but there is definitely rotation with this as it heads directly into Wingate and towards Elmdale areas. So again, tornado warning in effect here. It goes for 11 minutes, so it's a very short fused warning, so it's not going to go very long. The rotation definitely there over Wingate, directly over the town of Wingate. Ironically, I just went under a severe warning myself up here where I'm located, so that's fun. We'll come back to that here in just a second. I do want to touch base with all the other cells as well. This is going to be your main concern right now, the warning down here for the Linden area, but we do have other cells heading up in toward Russiaville, Forest, and is it Skirkleville? Is that how you say that? That's a weird town name. But overall, this is heading out toward Kokomo here in a matter of about 20 minutes. Tipton, Sharpsville area. Also up here toward Huntington. Huntington's about to be impacted as well as Lancaster with this severe warning. This over here by Bluffton and Huntington has the tornado possible tag on it as well. Let's check out the velocity on that real quick. I do not see anything on the tornadic side of things. There could be a little bit of wind forming. In fact, I would say there definitely is some wind forming down here by LaFontaine. So keep that in mind as that progresses toward Pleasant Plain, Van Buren, and Hanfield areas. New warning now incoming. So I'm back out of that. New warning, a very large warning incoming for the Kokomo and Tipton areas with this cell. This is going to be for half-dollar size hail, as well as 60-mile-per-hour winds heading toward Sharpsville, Tipton, Elwood, Summitville, Frankton, and Alexandria areas. Back down here to the tornado warning for the counties of Fountain. Although Fountain is pretty much clear now, it's going to be mainly in the northern part of Montgomery County. It does include southern Tippecanoe, but the area of interest is going to be directly in Montgomery County. So keep that in mind. We do have a hook on radar here. We also have a decent velocity signature that does tell us there is some rotation here, but luckily looking on the advanced radar, I do not see this. I don't see debris being lofted that tells me, hey, this is on the ground. I'm not going to say there's not one because we've seen greater and weirder things happen here in Indiana. But for right now, it does not appear to have anything that is on the ground at this current time. But still, treat it very seriously. It is over Elmdale, heading in toward Cherry Grove and Manchester areas in about 5 to 7 minutes. Let's check out Caleb again. Caleb is going to be in Markle, Indiana. We also have Corey in Pinedo, and we also have Steven up in Rochester. So we have several chasers out and about. We also have Drew. I believe Drew is in Ohio still. He is in Bowling Green, shooting to the west still, so he's a little bit out. But we have 4 chasers out there who are getting views in the field for us, which is great. Appreciate those guys for doing such. Not seeing anything debris-wise on the tornado warning, which is still good news, but a very pronounced hook there. We can definitely tell there's rotation here with this. Any tornado is going to be right in this area right there. It's going to be crossing up toward Linden and Cherry Grove here towards 231 in a few minutes here. The area of direct interest is going to be crossing north 400 west right about now, as well as New Richmond Road, as well as north 100 west in a matter of about 5 minutes. So, again, tornado warning. Northern Montgomery County is in the... Copy. Southern part of, or the northern part of Montgomery County is going to be the one in line for the worst part of the storm. Overall, I'm not seeing anything on the ground with it, but it does warrant close watching. Other cells up here just south of Russiaville. Making sure our chasers are good just behind the scenes, so bear with me here. I'm also under a warning, but it looks like it's going to go to myself, so I'm not going to be concerned about that. If I lose power and I disconnect, I'll be back, so just be patient. The concern here for the tornado warning continues. Looks like the new scan just came in. I'm still tracking it. It looks like it's kind of broadened back out into more of what we call a straight line wind, or RFD threat, which is going to be a wind heading in toward Cherry Grove and Linden areas. Would not be shocked to see some lowerings on this cell as well. The remaining warning expires in 5 minutes. We'll see if they issue it downstream or continue it. Right now, I'd say the rotation is very broad in nature. There's nothing really tight. In fact, latest scan just confirms what I was thinking here. What happens with these supercells when the storms cycle, then also become outflow dominant sometimes. What they'll do, instead of wrapping up on themselves, they will kind of bow outwards. So we're going to have a wind threat here with the southern part of this flank. We call it RFD, or rear flank downdraft. So if you live out ahead of this in Cherry Grove, Linden, and Manchester areas, you're about to get blasted by likely 60 to 70 mile per hour winds as the supercell has RFD winds pushing out toward 231 here. The rotation with it does not appear to be too tight anymore. I wouldn't be overly concerned for anything tornadic immediate. It could cycle through still, but overall the wind threat definitely taking priority here as this pushes toward 231. So Linden, Cherry Grove, and Manchester, be prepared for some pretty gusty winds here, likely severe criteria winds moving into your area in a matter of about 5 minutes or less. I do want to keep a close eye as well as Caleb. Caleb is on the Huntington cell, that one up here, that's tornado possible. A very potent hail core just south of Harlansburg and north of Mount Etna, west of Lancaster, heading into Lancaster, Warren, and Plum Tree areas. Nice hail core there. Let's check out Caleb's stream here and take a look at what he's seeing. what did I tell you guys about an hour ago? Nice green sky, and it looks like it's nice and green ahead of him up there in the clouds. So that's largely thanks to the sun angle, making everything kind of, ooh, nice lightning on that too. That's pretty. The sun angle making things a little bit scarier looking. Looking at that storm though, I do not see anything rotation wise. If there would be rotation, it would be down toward likely Pleasant Plain or Van Buren areas in about 5 minutes or so. We'll watch it carefully if it tightens up. I do think this cell is it's getting close to the warm sector, but I still think it's in the cold side of that cold front. So I think it'll be primarily a hail threat here for right now. Our cells up here in northeast Indiana that we're talking about a few minutes ago, heading toward Angola again, they're still not severe, and they likely will not be severe. It looks like they are well below severe limits. Excuse me. Could have some smaller hail in them, but heading toward Angola, Waterloo, and Auburn area, down toward Fort Wayne Metro, looks to be just some general garden variety storms. Nothing severe up there. You're watching Caleb's live stream here from Markle, Indiana. To his right is that storm that is severe warned for quarter-sized hail, 60-mile-per-hour winds, as well as a possible tornado. So we're going to see Caleb here intercept the storm. Yep, I got you. Also, Corey out ahead of this storm as well. Same storm as what Caleb's on. So we'll keep a close eye on that as well. I do want to take back the radar very quickly to go back to the tornado warning. There is an area of interest I want to mention and monitor here. As I go back down here and take the Indianapolis radar. Looking at this cell and taking on the velocity of this, we're going to see there is an area, I would say, of a little bit more so tighter rotation over Cherry Grove as it heads toward Darlington Woods and Darlington proper. So we'll see if they continue. It expires here. It actually should be expiring now in a matter of a minute or so. So overall, the concern for a tornado appears to be right now on the lower side of things, but definitely worth monitoring here as it pushes more so eastward here through Montgomery County toward Boone County. It looks like more of a wind threat, but there is some broad rotation. That did look like a little bit tighter there a scan ago, but it looks like it kind of broadened back out to more of a straight line wind threat. So again, for that tornado warning, it'll expire here in about a minute or so, about 10 seconds actually, 15 to be exact. It'll expire. We'll see if they continue it right now based off radar. Cherry Grove is likely getting impacted by pretty severe winds, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds likely with that cell, but does not appear to be tight enough to really warrant concern for anything tornadic. We'll see if they issue a downstream warning. That warning has been officially dropped with no new issuance. The severe warning remains in effect, though, and the tag for a possible tornado remains here all the way down to Lebanon, Indiana, Kirkland, Elizaville, Cyclone, ironically, Cyclone, Indiana, Whitestown as well, all the way down to Zionsville. So we're on the north side of Indianapolis here for this warning. We're actually getting close to the 70 corridor with a couple of these cells. I don't think we're going to cross 70 corridor here just yet, but we're getting close to Indianapolis for sure. Also, want to mention some brief and some some rotation here on the cell up in the Tipton County area as well. Although this looks a little bit more broad. I'm going to back this up just a bit, actually. I want to see what this looked like. Very hard to tell there, but it could be very interesting. Looks like it doesn't line up very well. But likely some larger hail for sure heading into Tipton. Maybe some broad rotation on that cell as well. Heading into the Tipton area, as well as Sharpsville, and eventually toward Elwood and Frankton. Again, back here to Caleb and Corey, who are on the cell heading into Bluffton area. Areas impacted, Lancaster taking a direct impact from this hail core for sure. Bluffton, Nottingham, new warning now coming in.
A new destructive severe thunderstorm warning has been issued.
Okay, they're going to go destructive on this. Let's go ahead and go back here to the new warnings. Find it for one. I do not have that on my screen just yet. All right, what we're going to do here, we're going to take Caleb's screen here. I'm going to refresh my radar product. I want to get that destructive severe covered just to get it out of the way. So let's go ahead and pull up Caleb. He is going to be in Warren, Indiana. I'm going to restart my radar software here and get this pulled up. All right, there we go. Destructive severe warning now. And honestly, I think this is actually a very, very good call on the Weather Service, just because this is going to be that old tornado warning storm that had some rotation. We talked about the wind increasing on it, and my screen is not sharing, so give me 1 second to get that pulled up. Looks like another
new tornado warning has
coming
been
in
issued.
now. That's going to be for the stuff we just talked about. We'll go back to that here just a second. But right now, the RFD, the rear flank downdraft from this storm, is going to be producing 70 to 80 mile per hour winds heading into Darlington and eventually toward Advance, Mac, and Lebanon areas. So destructive severe warning in effect. Impacting Darlington right now, Shenandoah Inline, Dover, Hazelrig, Advance, as well as Lebanon, all the way down here toward New Ross and Whitesville, Indiana. Destructive severe 80 mile per hour winds observed. These are confirmed 80 mile per hour winds heading into your general region. Right down I-74 here. All the way up here to Tipton, Indiana. We have a new tornado warning for Tipton County, as well as Madison County. We just talked about this cell having some broad rotation with it, and they did went ahead and tornado warned it based off a report behind the scenes as well of potential rotation with this cell from spotters. So out of abundance of caution, it appears they went ahead and warned it, and I would say it's a pretty valid warning based off the reports we're getting. I'm going to get a post up on the pages here for you guys out ahead of this. The newest tornado warning does not appear to be that tight, so we're not going to put too much emphasis and pressure on it, but I do want to take a look at one area of interest here with this cell. Just a second. Time is 7:20 p.m. Get that post on the page. It just went out. Perfect. All right. To this tornado warning, there is some rotation here just to the east side of Tipton. Not very tight, but it is enough to warrant concern for some rotation and some mention of a possible tornado heading toward Hobbs, Curtisville, heading toward the Elwood area, New Lancaster, as well as College Corner, and eventually Frankton and Alexandria areas. This is going to be the area of interest. Got my pen on the screen here. Right out here, just north of Tipton, heading to the southeast here toward Elwood. That's going to be the area I'm concerned about with this cell. Looking back at Caleb, Caleb's reporting a big meso here. Meso is a rotating part of the storm, so I want to get Caleb pulled up and get a visual on what he's looking at. He is in the rain, looks like. Let's go ahead and refresh him, see if I can get his feedback. If not, we'll take Corey, because Corey is also in the vicinity of that cell, and there is Corey's shot in Pinedo. What a shot that is. So what you're looking at there in Pinedo, let's go ahead and find Pinedo first. I know it's close to Bluffton. There it is. So he's looking right at the cell. So that's the heart of that cell heading his direction. This might be worth just keeping a close eye on this cell here and this view from Corey. So I'm going to basically keep it here. Looks like hail also heading his direction as well. Corey, just so you know, looks like some good sized hail coming your way. I don't know if you care or not, but potentially quarters. Kokomo, you guys are outside the warning and storm, so no concern right now for a tornado in Kokomo. The area of concern for anything tornadic is going to be in Tipton County, just east of Tipton, directly heading in toward Elwood. Also want to reiterate there is a destructive severe warning heading in toward Thorntown and Lebanon, Indiana, here toward Hazel Rig. Currently impacted, excuse me, currently impacting Darlington, heading toward Advance, Max, Hazel Rig, and Thorntown areas, and eventually Lebanon toward Whitestown. Destructive severe warning for 80-mile-per-hour winds that are confirmed with that cell. We talked about that. It's a previous one that was tornado warned, and we saw what we call RFD bulge out, and that produced some really intense winds, and as such, they went ahead and warned it for 80-mile-per-hour winds that were confirmed on that storm. So if you live ahead of this in Lebanon, Thorntown, and Jamestown general regions, be inside, lowest floor of your house, away from windows if possible. On your screen currently is Corey's feed out of Pinedo, Indiana. You're watching the severe cell. This cell is warned for a possible tornado as well as quarter-size hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. So you do have quite the storm heading up into Corey's view right now. It'll be on top of him here in a matter of a few minutes. It's about to be really dark, it looks like. I am watching all these storms here behind the scenes. I have 4 different radars pulled up here, guys. So if I see something concerning, I will say it. I will call it out, but I'm the only one working here in the studio. So I can't cover everybody's questions in chat, so I do apologize. When we get really slammed like this, I like to pay attention to chat, but my focus is on the radar here, calling out what is potentially concerning here. So I do want to take note with this cell that is heading right toward Corey and Caleb, that there is some pretty decent velocity on it as well. Also want to take note, there could be some increasing velocity and perhaps some broad rotation on the south side of you, Corey, towards Montpelier and Nottingham.
New information. This severe thunderstorm warning has been
upgraded. I do want to take a peek
upgraded.
at Caleb's stream as well. He's going to be in Warren, Indiana. Looks like just ahead of the cell. Let's go ahead and talk about the new considerable warning here. As soon as we take back Corey's stream, Corey's reporting he's gotten hail now. I want to talk radar real quick. Looks like the core is going to just about impact Corey here just a second. But the considerable warning is going to be downstream for Whitestown, Kirkland, and Cyclone areas ahead of this cell in Thorntown. So they're going to downgrade it from destructive severe from 80-mile-per-hour winds down to 70. That's your only update. That's, again, for Kirkland, Northfield, Whitestown, Elizaville, Reagan and Stringtown areas. Now I go back to Corey here as he intercepts that storm in Pinedo, Indiana. Wrong feed. There we go. Thank you. So Corey is in Pinedo. Talk with him on the radio. He is reporting near quarter-size hail falling here ahead of the cell. So it looks like we do have confirmed reports out of Wells County, southern Wells County, of at least quarter-size hail with this cell. A new warning, or at least an upgrade or an update to the warning for this entire line in Tipton County. They continued the $half size hail possible, as well as a tornado possible tag with the cell. So it looks like they continued that and just kind of reiterated that, hey, we do have this continuing. The tornado warning also updated. It is continued to be radar indication. That continues for Alexandria, Summitville, and Elwood areas. The rotation with that cell looks to be on the weaker side as it enters New Lancaster here in a matter of a few minutes. Elwood also on the verge of being impacted. I'm not seeing anything on here that indicates tight rotation, but still it is under a warning. Excuse me. And the reports do have, previous reports from this storm do have the concern for some rotation and perhaps a couple funnel clouds and perhaps a tornado touchdown at some point. So we do want to keep a mention that, hey, we could have some still potential with this cell as it moves into Elwood. But I do want to take a notice that Elwood directly will have impacts from the hail side of things. This is a good hail core heading directly into the city of Elwood. But for the rotation, we want to see bright greens and bright reds together. We don't see that here on this cell. So right now does not appear to be a very potent tornado risk, but it is warned. So if you live in Elwood down to Alexandria, be in your safe place, away from windows, lowest floor of your house, interior closet, bathtub, cover your head, just in case. Regardless of tornado, the hail threat still exists with this storm heading into Elwood and eventually toward Alexandria here in the next couple of minutes. Take back Corey's stream as well. We have Ben as well with us now. We have Ben in Garrett, Indiana. We have Caleb in Warren, Indiana. We also have Drew in North Baltimore, Ohio. And as always, we have Steven, who was with us a few minutes ago. I believe he's off now. But we also have our other chasers out and about. We have Corey here in Pinedo. Let's go and refresh. Oh, there he goes. Looks like he's losing some connection there. It's kind of hard storm chasing and getting connections with streaming aspect, because when you have these really tall storms over you, they tend to block the signal for Starlink and other providers that we use. So it's kind of hard sometimes, but we make do. So going back up here to the cell that both Caleb and Corey are covering, we did see some increasing rotation there a few minutes ago. I do still see some indications of that down by Montpelier and Keystone, but nothing tight right now. I do think the overall concern is highest with hail. I think we're about to see the hail core here on Corey's stream. I want to kind of line this up here. Yeah, you're going to see the hail here, I assume, on Corey's stream, matter of a couple minutes or a couple seconds, really. He's going to take the brunt of this, if he really is in Pinedo, or at least around the area. Yeah, good. There is a good comment here in chat that I'm noticing as well. We had a couple of viewer reports and comments on our page. Ahead of these thunderstorms, there can be gust fronts that pick up dust, and that sometimes confuses people for tornadoes, when really it's not. It's just the wind kicking up dust. So in this case, there could be a false report, or not really a false report, but a misguided report, or perhaps a touchdown when it was really just wind kind of kicking up dust. So obviously, I don't see rotation that much with that tornado warning that's in the Alexandria, Elwood area. But of course, we do have reports, actually a few reports of potential funnel clouds previously, so I don't want to ignore it. Potential definitely is there, and there is rotation. The best I can tell you guys is basically directly in Elwood right now. We talked about this about 3 minutes ago. If you're in Elwood, Alexandria, any place between those, Frankton, you guys need to be underground, away from windows. Lowest floor of your house, cover your head, take your precautions. It is a tornado warning right now, not seeing anything confirmed, but reports previously may have confirmed or may have been something back toward the Tipton area. So keep that in mind. But again, right now, I'm not seeing too much in the way of concerning things on radar, but radar is also not 100% accurate all the time. All right, I want to also take attention back up toward Gary. Unfortunately, I'll take back the radar here. I want to check in with Corey real quick, though. Hey, Corey, any reports there in that core? New cell heading into Gary right now. Okay, thank you. Reporting all rain with it right now. Okay, copy. New storms popping up here toward Gary, Indiana. Back again here toward our weather camera at Wells Street Beach. In fact, I have it pulled up here, and there's a nice, a nice flanking line pushing into the area here. So I want to thank Wells Street Beach for sponsoring this camera. This is a point tilt zoom camera, so I can tilt this, point it, and zoom it however I wish. But we have another storm coming into the Gary area. We'll keep a close eye on that here in a matter of a few more minutes. But no warnings on those just yet. They appear to be elevated in nature. I do not see much concern. There is a couple hail cores offshore there, but overall not seeing too much in the way of concerning nature with that as it moves through. So with that said, back to the radar, and I want to go back down further south here. The tornado warning heading toward Alexandria, that's over Elwood right now with hail. Still not seeing too much in the way of rotation. There is a little bit there, but for anything dramatic, I would like to see a little bit more brighter greens than what we have on the radar here. So very broad rotation, if anything, being displayed there. Heading into Alexandria, perhaps just south of Alexandria. Frankton, you're going to take a direct hit from that. Stay Route 9, Moonsville outside the warning, but you're in the path of this as well as Yorktown and Kamek. Outside of the tornado warning, back here to the west toward Vetersburg, we have a nice hail core moving through the very far northern part of Vermilion County, very far southern part, excuse me, very far southern part of Warren and perhaps Fountain County as well, heading toward Covington. This is going to be impacting Foster, as well as really riding the I-74 corridor right into Covington. So nice hail there. Not seeing anything rotational wise on that, simply just a hail risk there. The hail tracker definitely lights up. So Covington, likely some bigger hail moving in toward your direction. Anywhere close to the Vermilion County as well as the Warren and Fountain County lines should be aware of that storm and be inside away from windows as it moves through. Back up here to the cell that Corey and Caleb are both on. Go ahead and take back our Chasers feeds here. We do have Corey repositioning, he said, back down toward the cell to the south. We'll be able to catch that pretty easily as it moves toward Winchester and Muncie area. We also have Caleb out there to his north. He is in Pinedo now as well. He is chasing the storm, getting us visuals as well. But overall, the reports from this cell have largely been right between penny to dime size. We do have a couple reports of golf ball size hail coming in from Huntington County, as well as southern Wabash County about a half hour to 45 minutes ago. So this storm does have a history of producing really large hail, which is what we expected to happen tonight. So there's our confirmation of very large hail. We have golf ball reports now in the state, which is kind of what we expected to happen, or kind of be the threshold. There could be a little bit higher, but luckily right now these cells are looking just a tad bit more subdued than they usually do with an event like this, with an event like today. All right. I'm going to turn to chat right now. I'm going to read off some comments here. You guys let me know where you're at, what you're seeing. Just let me know. To our knowledge, there is not a tornado in Tipton. There was a report around that area, perhaps a brief touchdown, but it also could be some dust getting kicked up ahead of the storms as well. So we're going to wait for a confirmation of that, of course, from the Weather Service. Right now, the rotation on that cell does look to be on the weaker side, so we're not too concerned for that. You're watching Caleb's stream here. He's in Penita, which is going to be in the Bluffton area. Brooklyn says sirens going off again in the Tipton County area. Thank you for that report. Newcastle still dry. Decatur, nothing new. Warning coming in. They're talking about ping pong ball size hail now. Ping pong ball size hail and 60 mile per hour gusts. Nothing that I see right now on radar looks to be tornado producing. There is a possibility that some may produce tornadoes, but right now I'm not seeing anything tight rotation wise on radar. I think the most concerning storm via radar is impacting Lebanon right now with some pretty gusty outflow winds heading toward Whitestown, Carmel, and Fishers area, as well as Zionsville, Noblesville, and Westfield. So pay attention with that cell. I would also suggest the cell that has the best tornadic potential is going to be that Lebanon cell right now. That seems to be the most, the best environment, but also the best looking storm structure on radar. So we'll keep a close eye on that. The tornado warning has been trimmed back. It expires in about 5 minutes. It continues for Alexandria. The rotation with that cell still looks weak. I'm not overly concerned for that immediate threat in Alexandria there. So it looks like the report, at least, was a little bit further back to the west toward Tipton area, of a little bit more so in the way of rotation back there. So this looks like it's weakening considerably as it moves toward Alexandria. So good news there. That storm is heading toward Muncie. Right now, Muncie is in the clear, but about 20 to 30 minutes, you guys will have a storm on top of you. Likely a warning incoming from Muncie for at least severe hail and wind. We'll see if they continue a tornado warning or perhaps a tornado possible tag up into the Muncie area. Got some chasers talking in the background, so I'm trying to listen in. I'm also eating. That's why I took my camera off my screen. So if I go quiet for about 30 seconds, I'm just kind of chewing on food here. I'm still looking at radar. I have 4 radars pulled up, so I'm not missing anything that can help at least. I'm looking at rotation, looking at the updraft strength, looking at hail cores. I'm looking at everything tonight. So I'm trying to do my best to keep up. There's a lot going on. Nothing overly concerning right now on the tornado front.
A new considerable severe thunderstorm warning has been issued.
From Muncie down to Newcastle. Corey, new considerable severe warning for your cell. Muncie, Winchester, 70 mile per hour winds as well as quarter size hail and tornado possible. Again, just want to reiterate, for those of you guys down in Muncie and Winchester, this storm does have a history of broad rotation, perhaps some frontal clouds or perhaps a brief touchdown further back in Tipton County. Right now, though, on radar, it does not appear to be a tight rotation. So don't get overly concerned yet. No reason for that. But the threat primarily is definitely for hail and especially for the wind, as this storm does look quite windy in nature as it progresses directly toward Muncie. So Muncie, unfortunately, I don't want to say this, but Muncie will likely take a direct hit from the cell, as well as Winchester, Yorktown, and farmland areas. So if you're in Muncie, good idea to head to your safe place now. Inside, away from windows at very least. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Into your closet or to your basement as the storm passes through your area. Not a bad idea at all. No tornado imminent that I see on radar, but the warning and the storm does have a history of producing some rotation, so do take it seriously. Heading toward Muncie, currently over Alexandria, and it'll eventually reach Winchester in a matter of about probably 30 minutes or so. Just want to pop on the screen here real quick and tell you guys this is the storm that I'm talking about. I do want to point out the storm could be splitting
A new
as well.
considerable
You kinda see
severe
a split there over
thunderstorm warning
Alexandria,
has been
so we
issued.
could see that happen as well. A new considerable warning now to the south as well. This is going to include, it appears, the northern part of Indy Metro, so Zionsville, Fishers, Lawrence area. Same hazards. We're talking 70-mile-per-hour winds as your main hazard, as well as quarter-size hail and the tag for a possible tornado. I do think this cell has the best potential to produce a tornado. Right now, though, I do not see that being imminent. It does have a hook here on radar. It also has the boundaries playing here, too. We talked about that boundary. It's very close to the cold front. So this is going to be the one to watch here for anything tornadic in nature as it moves toward Noblesville, eventually toward Pendleton. But overall, this is going to be the one to watch, I think, for anything tornadic. But right now, like I said, nothing that I'm seeing imminent on the tornado front. Just gusty winds right now, heading into Whitestown, Zionsville, and the populated areas of Carmel, northern Metro Indy. So we have quite a bit of stuff going on here. Go ahead and animate this for you guys. These storms are moving pretty quickly, though, which is good news. I am going to refill my water. Kokomo, you do have a storm coming your way again. Right now, not severe. I'll take a look at that here in just a second. Yeah, like I said, right now, Kokomo, another storm heading your direction. I'll go ahead and pause this here and get this zoomed in. Hail core may impact north side Kokomo. I checked velocity on this. This is definitely in the cold sector of the threat. So really no concern for tornadoes or wind up there, just a hail threat for you guys there in Kokomo. I wouldn't be shocked to see it strengthen, perhaps get a warning, but right now it seems to be sub-severe for you guys in Kokomo. The tornado warning has now expired, which is great news. We're back just to severe warnings. Nothing confirmed that we know of on the tornado front just yet. There have been reports of potential touchdowns, but like some people in chat have said and mentioned, there is dust getting kicked up today ahead of these storms. So someone may have got mistaken seeing dust flying through the air, and they may have thought it was a tornado, but it was just wind picking up dust. So, of course, that happens sometimes. We'll have to kind of wait and see what happens with surveys or anything damage-wise that comes in. But right now, we have no official confirmations of anything touching down in Indiana. Also, bear with me. I am still eating. I'm off the screen here currently. Go ahead, Corey. That is what chat's saying as well, so let me know what you find out. My radio just fell off. All right. The ping pong ball size hail back here toward Vetersburg, Hillsboro, and Waynetown is confirmed with this cell. So if you live in Vetersburg, Hillsboro, and Waynetown along I-74 here, this is going to be Fountain County. This is going to be some fairly large hail heading your direction. Reports here in chat suggest that there was a touchdown somewhere. Also getting reports behind the scenes of that. We do have a chaser en route to confirm or debunk that. So we'll have a call on that here fairly soon. Fairly large hail core moving over Bryant into Ohio here shortly. Noble, Trinity, and J City, just south of 29 here. Stay Route 18 as well. Heading toward this Coldwater, Salina, Ohio area, Fort Recovery. This is also one to watch here, but luckily not going to be our problem for much longer. I believe Caleb is on that cell. He might chase it into Ohio, but right now that still be a concern for Ohio because it won't be in Indiana much longer. I hate this radio. There we go. I'm not seeing much on the rotation front. Good news there. I do have a concern, though, for this cell in Bryant, Indiana. Like I said before, though, it won't be in Indiana long. It'll be Ohio's problem. But this looks like a problem for Ohio. Talking this cell right here. I'm kind of scanning through here, looking at the rotation, looking at the wind velocities. I'm not seeing too much here that jumps off the page at me for tornadoes, rotation, or even damaging wind-wise. So that's good news, at least. I think it's primarily more of a hail risk right now. These storms do have a history of producing some wind and some rotation as well. But at the current moment, at least, looking at radar, I think the strongest cell is going to be this one in Bryant. Crossing 27, heading toward Bellefontaine, or Bellefountain, Bryce, Fort Recovery, Ohio, and Noble. We got Red Dozer over here on the Indiana side. Usually a Red's on the Michigan side of things. Thank you, Red, for the generosity over there on YouTube. It says, hey, everyone, squish the like button. Thanks, Ryan. Thank you, Red. Appreciate your support as always, even if it's on the Indiana side. Latest scan here over Trinity, just south of J City, heading toward Noble, increases the hail as well. But also do take note of this pretty nasty looking hook there. That is going to be a concern if this storm can become rooted at the surface. So the big question up here is, where is that cold front at? Is there potential for it to outrun that cold front? And I think the answer is yes, there is. There is some broad rotation there as well, so keep a close eye on that. The Indianapolis radar will be closer to the ones down here. Let's check out the velocity on these again. Not seeing too much there, not seeing too much there. So overall, it looks like more of a hail risk and perhaps a gusty wind risk with these cells currently. The ones that are back up here you're seeing, if you guys are up here in the very far northern edge of Indiana, your cells are all, we're going to call them elevated, which means they're on the cold side of the warm front, or on the cold front, should I say. So everything up here is going to be strictly a hail producer. So if you live in this circled area here, the risk for damaging wind as well as tornadoes is pretty much zero. These cells down here, tracking through central Indiana, that is our main concern. And this is going pretty quickly here. We're getting close to 8 o'clock. We did say between 6 and 10 is the main concern. That still looks to be valid here. But this threat is really rapidly developing because these storms are hauling butt across the state, across 50 to 70 miles per hour on the storm movements here. So overall, these storms are hauling. Finish up my food here and get back into tracking. I'm just eating, so don't mind me. While there's a little bit of a break in the action, get some food in me. Checking through our inbox here for anything damage related or anything like that. Nothing that I'm seeing coming through. Copy. Okay, done eating. So focus can be back out here on radar. I still do think that the strongest sell, and that is a very nasty looking hook here. Take back my radar. A very nasty looking hook here. Heading in toward Fort Recovery, Ohio, currently just north of Portland, Indiana. Check out the velocity on this. There is some very brief and broad rotation here. Nothing tight though, which is good news. But this is looking like a very classic supercell. Regardless, Noble up to Trinity, very decent hail core here. Westchester as well, heading into St. Peter, Ohio, Macedon, Ohio, Monterey, Ohio, and Padua, Ohio. The Muncie cell is now just starting to come into town. Take back the Indianapolis radar. Hail core is on the back side of the cell, so you're going to have to get through some heavy rain first before you get to the hail part of the storm. But overall, not seeing anything rotation with that storm here in Muncie. So the good news is it appears to be just a hail and perhaps some wind with that storm heading into Muncie right now as we speak. Heading back here toward the Noblesville cell. The cell is currently over Sheridan, Hortonville, Baker's Corner area. Hail core about to cross US 31. North of Westfield, heading toward Noblesville. This cell as well does not appear to have rotation. It also does not appear to have wind with it. It simply just looks like a, dare I say, perhaps a small hail producer. I don't see wind with it. I don't see anything rotating with it, so that's good news at least. Back here, further to the west, we do have the cell over the Hillsboro area. This is warned for ping pong ball size hail. It is observed as well, so they confirmed at least ping pong ball size hail is falling with the cell. It is directly riding the I-74 corridor as this moves to the east-southeast toward Manchester, Crawfordsville, Garfield, Smartsburg, Cherry Grove as well. I really still think that the threat and the greatest concern is going to be this cell over here. Granted, it's moving into Ohio as we speak, but this cell just looks very nasty in nature as it does so. And there is some rotation developing on it too. So luckily, as it's strengthening the rotation part, it's going to head into Ohio, not be our concern. But that is, as a storm chaser, that is as typical of a supercell as you can get. Hook on the backside, hail core, and nice precip shield out ahead. You can't make it more textbook than that. I believe that cell is where Caleb is at too. He is in Bryant, Indiana, which is on the back side of that storm, so he is on that cell. I'll bet he'll chase that into Ohio too. So if it does anything, we'll have eyes on it. Even if it's in Ohio, we'll have Caleb with us if it does anything. All right, back to chat here, guys. I know I'm behind. We'll go ahead and take a look here. Alex is in chat saying dark in Muncie. Report of a tree down there in Logansport. Thank you for the viewer for sending that in. Appreciate that. Stream is messed up. Is there something going wrong with the stream here? Is my audio not coming through? It is coming through. Am I good? They issued looks like a new warning for the very far extreme corner of Jay County for that cell until 8:30 p.m. They're going to go half dollar size hail and tornado possible with that. But again, that area of concern is so small, it'll be in Ohio in a matter of about 5 or 10 minutes. Muncie is about to be impacted in a matter of about 2 minutes. Yeah, that I'm gonna make a prediction, guys, just because I have as a chaser, you get those feelings sometimes. The cell. This cell out ahead of this, heading into Coldwater, Ohio area, this is going to go on to produce a tornado in Ohio. This storm is really wrapping up on itself. Rotation's increasing. Very healthy looking core. It's moving in the right direction. It has everything going for it. I'm going to predict, if I'm chasing this cell right here, because that looks very potent and very healthy, and likely going to do something here as it heads toward eventually Sydney, Ohio area. Just north of Tip City. So we'll keep an eye on that, see if it does anything. In the meantime, though, back here to Indiana Strat, we have a cell that is still riding 74 just north of Waynetown. Primarily a hail threat, up to ping pong ball size hail falling there. Hail core moving toward Cherry Grove and Manchester, as well as Elmdale, just north of Waynetown, also north of Wesley. Over here in the North Indy region, Noblesville area, this storm honestly does not look to be overly concerning. We'll watch this very far southern end. I think it's clutter here. I'm going to back this up just a bit, just make sure. There is a boundary here that could make some things cluttered, so I do want to verify this, but before I do, I will... Yeah, it's just clutter. So, it does have a hook on it, but there's a boundary here as well, so it's going to be kind of hard to depict. The velocity does not look to be very concerning with it. The hail core doesn't appear to be that large either. So I do not think this is... Whoa. I do not think that this is going to be a huge concern here heading into the Clarksville and Pendleton areas. We're going to go 10 scans instead. There we go. Perfect. The cell heading into Muncie looks to be the strongest cell now. Probably some good size hail in Muncie as we speak. So Muncie... out ahead of this, as well as Smithfield, Selma, Windsor, Parker City, Bluntsville, New Burlington, Gates Corner, Mount Pleasant, and Irvington, all out ahead of this storm, should be inside and away from windows. All the reports I'm getting of hail in Messenger here on our page has been right around dime size. That's good. There's not much in the way of severe hail reports coming in. I know it's occurred tonight, but the fact that only a few people are sending stuff in signifies that the overall threat for very large hail is definitely coming down a bit. Dime-sized hail in Muncie. Thank you, Bryce, for that report. Just had hail in Yorktown, says Kelsey. Angel, from radar indications, there is no rotation in Muncie. So I'm going to say if there's anybody reporting a tornado, it's pretty much a false report at this point. The storm does not look to be tornadic at all. It does look to be pretty strong in the way of hail. The hail core is directly passing through Muncie right now. And with hail cores, you can sometimes get gusty winds as well. So hail and wind is the primary concern there. A considerable severe warning remains in effect up to 70 mile per hour winds, but I don't really see that happening with these cells. Not to say it's not going to happen or it isn't happening, but with the radar data I have, I don't really see that being the case. So we have a report coming in behind the scenes here of damage in Fulton to a store. Also have reports of some damage in Tipton County as well.
Not anywhere, but you know.
Okay,
Honestly, the
copy.
next road. Nah, we're gonna one more down.
We got Sydney also out. She's on the Ohio-Michigan border. She looks like she's going to be heading to the south, it appears. Not entirely sure just yet. Okay, copy. Thank you. We got Ben, who was with us previously. Looks like he's offline now. I'm kind of scrolling through our chasers here. Caleb's out there. Let's check out Drew. Drew is in Findlay, Ohio. Rolling through our chasers, continuing. Got Sydney out there. Looks like just Corey, Steven, Sydney are currently out, as well as Caleb and Drew. Corey is in Redkey, Indiana. Muncie is now clearing the storm, so Muncie will be all clear from the severe storm here in just a second. Keep in mind, though, you do have more storms coming throughout the night, so don't let your guard down just yet. The severe threat should be lower as we move through the night, so I think the worst of it is over for you guys, but there is still more coming, so don't let your guard down. None of the storms so far that have fired up to the north or west have become severe yet, which is a good telling sign. So once we can get this first line cleared, I think our threat becomes much lower as we get through the late evening hours, which is what we've been saying. So that's really good news. The Wilmington, Ohio radar is down. That is not good. It has been down since 4 o'clock. That is tough luck. Also, the Dayton Airport radar is down. So that cell we were talking about over by Coldwater, Salina, it's now officially moved into Ohio, so it's no longer a concern. But I did predict it to do something, but we're not going to really see it do anything because there's no radar data over here. There's a radar here, it's down. There's a radar down here in Wilmington, it's down. So we're not going to have any data off it. Copy, thank you. And your rotation, if anybody's watching or living in Ohio here, there is some rotation between Coldwater and Fort Recovery, Ohio, moving toward North Star, Fort Laramie, as well as Casella areas. So keep in mind, if you have any family or if you live over there watching us from Ohio, that is quite close to the state line. So we'll go ahead and mention that and cover that as it moves off to the southeast. Farmland, Winchester, Lynn, on deck for some hail. Check out the Indianapolis radar here. Muncie is now cleared of this storm. You may have some light rain as well as some Thunder and lightning remaining there in Muncie, but overall the worst of it is now past you. But if we zoom out here, take a look back, we have plenty more storms heading your direction. However, these are all on the cold side of the cold front, which means they're going to be a hail producer, not tornadoes, not wind. But again, none of these cells currently that have popped up behind the cold front are severe, which is a really good sign. If they were to become severe, the only risk that we see is going to be hail. Got a report behind the scenes here coming in from Caleb, our chaser. Golf ball sized hail reported in Bryant. I'm going to post that on the page, so give me 1 second. Let's go ahead and switch to Caleb here. He is in Bryant, I believe, still, and he was actually just out searching for hail. He sent me pictures, and it is equivalent, or at least very close to golf ball size here in the Bryant area. He is still where he was before. So we'll go back to, we'll take Sydney. She's offline. Okay, we'll take Corey then. Steven is heading towards some damage, so we'll have Steven coming down in about 20 minutes or so. Corey is actively getting in position for the cell heading into Winchester. Let's go ahead and refresh him, see if we can get a better view. So we'll take Corey's stream here. Big hail in Muncie, says Hannah in chat about 5 minutes ago. If you guys have reports, feel free to chime in. I'm going to send some pictures out to the page here in just a second from Caleb. It'll be on the page in about 20 seconds here. All right, that is now on the page. I just click sent. So if you guys want to go check it out for yourselves, feel free. It is on the pages right now. I live in Bryant, says Amanda. It really was golf ball size. Yep, that is confirmed from Caleb as well. So that's that cell we've been talking about for the past 15 minutes or so into Ohio now that produced that hail there in Bryant. So that's no longer a concern for Indiana. I would be concerned, though, for larger hail over Parker City and Windsor areas, as this cell headed out of Muncie is now heading toward Winchester and Lynn areas. Harrisville, Union City, South Salem, and Bartonia, Spartanburg, and Crete also. Saratoga, Stone in the path of the storm. Highway 27 as well as US 36 excuse me, in the path of this storm. The worst of it over Parker City as we speak, moving to the south and a little bit east, or east and a little bit south, should I say. Moving more so in this direction. Look at the storm up here heading into Pendleton. This is weakened considerably, guys. I do not expect them to reissue a warning for this cell. I'll look at the velocity just to make sure, but I do not see anything impressive with that cell at all. I just don't. There is nothing signifying severe with this cell heading into Pendleton. So what was once a considerable severe warning appears the storm is significantly weakened. This storm as well appears to be weakening, heading in toward Darlington and impacting Crawfordsville area. This appears to be on the weaker side. Let's check velocity. There is some increased velocity down here toward Crawfordsville that could align. Let's check out the hail tracker as well. Yeah, there's not much there that indicates that's getting severe as well. So really, I think the only major concern that I have, at least immediately, is going to be this cell in the Winchester area.
A new severe
It looks like they
thunderstorm
updated
watch
the
has
watch
been
here.
issued.
They're not issuing new watches. They're just updating, I believe. I have to imagine. We'll see here in a second. Looks like they're just perhaps canceling a few counties or saying that, you know, the threat continues for a couple more hours or so on and so forth. So that's not a new watch coming in. For our friends on the Ohio side for this cell, we've been tracking and talking about the rotation has increased even further on this cell in just south of Coldwater. So any friends or family living out ahead of this is going to be heading in toward Cartagena, Casella, Maria Stein, as well as Cranberry Prairie, Ohio. We're about to cross US 127 there, just south of the US 29. Coldwater, Ohio, for our friends over there. Winchester and Lynn should still be in their safe place, as well as farmland. This could be some pretty good hail and some wind moving in. Corey is out ahead of that storm. We're going to take that Corey stream. I see a super chat as well to read off. So thank you, Goose. Do you think Fishers, Indiana should be worried as we go later in the evening? Or do you think these storms will start to weaken into the night? Goose, good question. The answer is the later we get, the better off we're going to be. The weaker the storms should become. So the later on we get, the less and less of a threat there will be. With this storm, though, you do have a storm heading your direction from Crawfordsville. Don't let your guard down just yet. It does look like it's on the weakening trend, but still has about a county or two left before it hits you. Pay attention. Severe weather is still possible, but after 10 p.m., really, I think the threat is pretty much diminished at that point. But of course, we could have an isolated strong storm or two at that point, with hail being the primary concern. But yes, overall, it will diminish as we get later on in the evening. Am I frozen? I'm not frozen on my end. I will refresh my camera just to make sure. Okay, looks like they did add a couple counties to the watch. They added Clay, Johnson, Morgan, Owen, Rush, Shelby, and Vigo counties to that severe watch until midnight. So what they're basically saying is, hey, this area of storms is still looking like it's severe, and the bottom tier counties we didn't put a watch over is now going to get a watch as those storms progress. So basically one tier county extension to the south just for these storms here. It doesn't change my thinking at all. I do think the threat is on a downtrend here for these cells that are behind it. A hail risk does continue, but overall I'm not seeing too large of a tornadic or wind concern with any of these storms currently, besides the one here in Winchester. I will go north here. We've been ignoring the northern cells for the most part here. There's a cell heading in toward the South Bend, Bremen, and Napanee areas. Just looking at this on radar, I can tell it's elevated. There's no wind velocity with it. There could be some hail, though. Hail tracker on it looks pretty weak and pretty subdued. So overall, there's nothing here in the northern part of the state that really catches my eye with severe weather. The threat here is going to be these bottom two cells, one near Winchester and one just coming out of Crawfordsville heading toward Lebanon. That's going to be the main concerns I have in the short term. Thank you, Malachi, for that super chat asking, do you think Lafayette and Frankfurt areas are clear for the night or still need to watch? I would be on alert for a couple more hours for hail, but overall risk tonight for anything tornadic or wind is pretty much done for you guys up there. So don't let your guard down for hail, but overall concern for tornadoes and wind is on the lower end. Looking back in Illinois, take a look at the radar. There is some rain coming our direction, but as you can see, the organization of storms is pretty much in the state right now, pushing to the east here. So not a, there's really no organization. There's no main line. There's no looking like a potent cell at all. It's just looking like a couple dying storms at this point, which is really good news. I'm going to say this right now. Once this cell in Winchester clears into Ohio, we're going to drop quite a few warnings off of the radar here. And we're going to likely look at wrapping up our coverage probably around between 9 and 10 o'clock, if all goes well, obviously. And it's trending that way right now, but we do have a couple more storms out there worth monitoring. So we're not going to give the all clear, obviously, just yet, but I think we're trending in the right direction for sure. I do want to take my screen share and kind of maneuver around here. My radar software, I believe, is lagging behind just a smidge, so I'll restart that again. It does that sometimes. I can't control it. I'm not sure why it does it. It was lagging behind. It is now updated. And now I can go ahead and bring this back in, share my screen again. And I can go over some updates with you guys. So obviously the severe warning for the Noblesville cell is dropped. There's no warning there. The warning continues here for observed quarter-size hail between Crawfordsville and Lebanon. Going to follow very closely to State Route 32 or SR 32 over the Shenandoah area. Outside of this, there's really nothing else here. We have some decent smaller... There we go. Between Crawfordsville and Lebanon, you have some smaller hail following State Route 32 or SR 32 over Shenandoah, which is right here. Not seeing too much in the way of concerning nature of the storm. Further north, we have some smaller cells with smaller hail cores heading toward Young America, Judson, Galveston, as well as Carrollton areas. Also one over here that has a decent core heading into Marion. So Marion, Gas City, be on alert for this cell. This may be one of the more potent, smaller cells we see. It's a very tiny cell, but you can see the hail core is pretty pronounced on it. So keep an eye on that in Marion. You may have some smaller to medium-sized hail, perhaps some larger stones mixed in there, moving into Marion here next 5 minutes. This cell over here in Winchester does have my eye. It starts to look like a hook on it as well. Let's check velocity. There is some broad rotation forming on this. So if you are watching from Huntsville, Lynn, Spartanburg, Bartonia, Crete, Carlos, anywhere between or near those areas, do keep in mind some broad rotation, but also a decent hail core over Huntsville and Unionport as we speak. The worst of it is missing Winchester to the south, but it does have a nice hook developing with some broad rotation, so worth monitoring. There is now a tornado warning for our friends to the east in Ohio on the cell that I was talking about a half hour ago. The rotation increased. It is very cluttered on radar. We have no close radar data, but the rotation heading toward Maria Stein, Ohio. Go ahead, Dakota. Sounds good. Thank you. Dakota's reporting in. He's out and about chasing as well. Reporting some road closures out there. He's trying to get into some of the areas that reported, I believe, had damage earlier. But obviously, if that's the case, then they're going to have it blocked off regardless. So now Corey's talking to me in my ear as well. So he's reporting some windy conditions there. I do see they went considerable, or they updated this on the warning for Winchester, really south of Winchester. Going to be for Lynn here in the eastern part of Indiana. They're going to go 70-mile-per-hour winds and a possible tornado attack on this. And I believe they're seeing the exact same thing that I'm seeing. There's a little bit of a hook developing with some rotation. So we'll keep an eye on that. If that is producing rotation, it's heading into Huntsville right now as we speak. Thank you, Corey. Just so you're aware, I'm not sure if you're watching the stream or not, but there is some broad rotation heading toward Lynn. New severe alert for Grant, J, Wells, and Blackford counties. That's the cell we just talked about. Also, a new warning incoming for Wayne County as well as Dark and Preble in Ohio. So that's a new warning incoming. It's going to be just north of Richmond's for Fountain City, Economy, Williamsburg areas for the Winchester cell that does have a hook on it. So we are going to keep an eye on that. We just talked about that cell that was moving into Marion. That is now warned for quarter-size hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds. So this is going to be heading into Marion, south side of Marion, heading into Gas City, Upland, as well as Hartford, and places between that here shortly. A decent hail core, a small one, but a decent-looking potent hail core moving pretty much due east, a little bit south movement here. So Gas City, Upland, Arcana, Jaden, Roll, Montpelier, also in the warning, Penville, Trenton, Millgrove, Converse, Green, Nottingham, Domestic, and Keystone, all in that warning here. That goes until, looks like 8:45. So we will have a look at that here in a few minutes as well. Another core going up behind that storm, heading just north of Kokomo. That's not warned, but it does have that little small pocket of potent looking hail, so worth monitoring that. I do want to keep a close eye up here for the Napanee cell. There's no real standout hail core with that storm, but I do want to mention it as potentially on the stronger side. I do see some reports of some really wind gusts up here, which is kind of weird. I don't see anything wind-wise, and hail-wise also seems a little bit on the subdued side for that, so not really sure what people are seeing. A round 4 for Gary coming in on the west side of Indiana now. Not severe at this current time, but this could produce some hail. There's no wind with it that I see. The airport radar there is pretty subdued, but we'll keep an eye on that for hail. But again, if you're in Gary, Hammond area, you have another cell. I can't believe I'm saying this again, but another cell moving your direction next couple of minutes. The Winchester cell going back here, taking a peek at the velocity. Broad rotation over Huntsville right now, south of Winchester. Not overly tight. Let's check our debris tracker just to be sure. There's not much there signifying. Looks pretty cluttered. Hard to tell, for sure. There's no closer radar than Indianapolis, so I can't really switch radars. But overall, I keep a close eye on it. Lynn about to be impacted here by some hail on the north side of town. And the rotation appears to be heading toward Carlos and Bloomingport on the south side of Lynn. And again, this is broad rotation. Doesn't appear too tight, but there is a tornado possible tag on this cell on the warning as well that expires in 6 minutes. Yeah, Gary's been impacted 3 or 4 times, or 2 or 3 times already today. So Gary will have a 3rd or 4th storm. I've lost count. There's been at least 2. This will be the 3rd. We are not the ones with the Dorothy truck from Twister. We are not affiliated with that Storm Chaser. But I do know what you're talking about. The cell heading into Lebanon is also severe warned. Expires in 5 minutes. I would not expect them to issue a downstream warning here for Fisher, Zionsville, Carmel, Westfield areas. I would not expect that. Okay, copy. Got you pulled up. Corey's on the cell that has a hook over by the Lynn area. But finishing my thought process here, Lebanon, I do not see much of a concern for a continuation of this severe warning. Of course, it's discretion of NWS, but right now the storm appears to be on a weakening trend as it moves into Lebanon. The Gas City cell is now moving into Gas City. It is continued for hail up to quarter size as it moves through Gas City up toward Upland and Renner, as well as Hartford areas next couple of minutes. Go ahead, Dakota. Thank you for the report. You say Vietersburg with a V? Okay, copy. Okay, thank you. I'm on your stream now. Steven's just chiming in as well. We have lots of damage coming in from our chasers in the LaFontaine area. So this is from Steven. Steven is going to be, again, La Fontaine, or La Fountain, whatever you guys want to pronounce it. I know it's pronounced both ways. Power pole snap there. Also have Dakota behind the scenes in Tetersburg, which is going to be near Kempton, just west of Tipton. Has a report of also power lines down there. They're blocking the roads and stuff like that for the Tipton area. So there is some damage coming in from our chasers here across the north central Indiana area. Most concerned about that Tipton County area near Kempton. That appears to be where the worst of the damage was reportedly reported. But right now, nothing major that we're aware of is occurring, or it did occur. So we'll let you guys know as we get more information. Looks like the threat here has really shifted to the south. And the storms up here further north across the north half of the state are all what we call elevated in nature, which primarily means that there's really no risk for anything tornadic-wise or damaging wind, but there is a hail risk. A small hail for sure. Large hail should be more so kind of isolated in nature, which is good news. They did statement these storms up in... Take back my radar just a brief minute here. Up here in Warsaw, Napanee, and North Webster area, they did go ahead and statement it for half-inch hail, which is right around dime size, and 40-mile-per-hour winds. So keep that in mind for the blue box up here. Not severe, but it could be on the stronger side for you guys up there. Going back further south here, I do want to mention that the hail core is impacting Gas City directly, and heading toward Upland. It will impact Upland, Renner, and as well as Hartford pretty much directly head on. So if you live, again, out ahead of the cell, it's small, but it's packing a punch here with the hail threat with it. So back to Steven's stream. He is checking out damage again, La Fontaine, Indiana. We also have Dakota with us. He is in the Tetersburg area near Tipton County. We have Caleb, we have Drew out there, we have Ben who is with us. We have a whole plethora of chasers out there tonight. But overall, the threat appears to be winding down just a bit as expected. The worst of the storms are starting to move out of the state or starting to weaken just a bit. So we're not going to sound the all clear just yet. Got some tree damage there as well on Steven's stream. So that's interesting. Got some pocketed damage there. We're not going to say it's over just yet, obviously. We have a lot of storms still ongoing. But the threat appears to be winding down just a bit from its intensity a bit earlier tonight. I do want to mention as well the Kokomo cell near Galveston, just north of Kokomo proper. Decent hail core moving toward Marion as well. So Marion area, prepare for perhaps another round of a small but mighty storm with some hail moving your direction next 20 minutes or so. The Winchester cell we've been talking about has become a little bit more disorganized. There is still some broad rotation over Carlos, heading in toward just south of Lynn, Fountain City area, going to cross 27. But overall, that appears to be on the weaker side as well, disorganized overall as a storm. So not going to see too much concern for that. Power outage in Lebanon already back up. That is awesome. Shout out to the power crews out there working to get the power back restored. That is awesome. We got Corey on the storm heading into Ohio. He's in Farmland, Indiana, which is going to be, I'm assuming, around the Lynn area. I can't find it on my radar product here, but I'm assuming he is in the Winchester Lynn area. There it is. I found it. So he's on the back side of that hook. So if anything's going to happen with that storm, which is looking unlikely at this point, at least short term, it's going to be on Corey's stream here. The wind gust with severe winds should be winding down here as we get later on in the evening. Thundering in Frankfurt again, says Lisa. God, thank you, Lisa. A lot of good lightning there on Corey's stream. New warning now, quarter-size hail for Boone, Clinton, Fountain, and Montgomery counties until 9:15. That is going to be for the cell. We talked about the Lebanon cell weakening. The one behind it does, at first impression, does not really excite me. This is a cell they just warned. It's over the Hillsborough and Millet areas, heading toward Manchester, Waynetown, and Linden. I'm not seeing... Okay, well, the hail core there definitely has a nice, potent hail core for sure. Other than that, there's really not a huge concern there. Heading towards State Route 25. Steven has, looks like some damage to some property there, so he's checking on the homeowners. He's going to be out with those guys. We'll let him be for now, checking on the residents there in the area. So anything comes out of that, we'll let you guys know. My voice is starting to take a toll. If you guys didn't catch the first hour of the stream, I said I had flu B about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and I'm still coughing and having some voice issues, I guess we'll call it. So, apologize for the coughing. Just bear with me. I do have a nice view here, courtesy of Wells Street Beach in Gary, looking over Lake Michigan there. A very intense lightning show, looking at Chicago. Chicago is that city, the lights you see on the left side of your screen. That is Chicago. Before I took this, there is a nice, what we call anvil crawler type of, upward type of lightning that was really cool to watch there. So we'll have to go back and clip it. But a lot of lightning moving into Gary there with that secondary storm, or really third storm at least, moving into Gary as we speak here. Currently over the Hammond area. Copy. Stay safe. So taking a look back here at the Gary camera. Go ahead, Dakota. A lot of traffic in my ears. Bear with me, guys. I'm getting some information from the chasers behind the scenes. So getting reports out of that Tipton County area, we had a potential touchdown of a tornado really reported. Not confirmed yet, obviously. Could be dust, could be also wind kicking it up. But there is damage in that area, and that's being relayed from our chasers from what he's hearing and seeing. So we do have some damage in that area, unconfirmed of how bad it is, but we do at least have some power pole and some tree damage in that general Tipton area. So keep that in mind. If anything comes of that, we will obviously let you guys know. But overall, the threat for Tipton right now for severe weather is low. We do have some hail threat behind it. I think anything tornadic wise is pretty much done for the night. We do have some reports out of the Lynn area, perhaps some tree damage coming in. There is some broad rotation basically over Lynn, just south of the town of Lynn. It doesn't look too overly tight. There you go. There's some broad rotation. I gotta flip my screen back over here to the radar. There we go. We like to see those greens and reds coming together just a little bit. In this case, on radar, you can see the darker reds and the brighter yellows there. That's brighter reds, we really call it. But when you look at the relative, you can kind of see it's coming together just a little bit south of Lynn there. Not overly tight, but enough to warrant attention. So heading toward Arba, Bethel, Whitewater area. Not going to be in Indiana long because the Ohio state line is right here. But it is warranting concern here that I have just a little bit for some rotation just south of the town of Lynn. Excuse me. Whoa. I regret taking it off the Gary cam because the lightning is insane right now. We'll leave it on here just for a second. I'm going to do a quick sweep of my chats here. We have a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes. I'm looking at them right now, actually. So, looks like we have a report, not report, but a confirmation of some damage there. Steven, give me a location on that in chat, a more precise location if you can. Actually, I'll just grab it. Never mind, I got it. We got some minor structure damage to some weaker structures in the La Fontaine area that our chasers are on reporting. The homeowners are okay. There's no injuries there. But we do have some minor damage. Looks like a barn got blown in, as well as some siding. So I'm going to relay that to the Weather Service right now, so they are aware of it. So just give me a second here, guys, while I do that. I'll check in on the rotation real quick with the latest scan. Still broad in nature, nothing overly concerning. It's going to be over the Bethel and Arba areas in a matter of 2 minutes, in the basically in Ohio in a matter of 5 minutes. So not much concern there with that storm. About 2 or 3 more minutes it'll be in Ohio. I'm just relaying that report of damage to the Weather Service as we speak here, so I want them to be aware of that, so that's why I'm quiet. We'll go over the radar here in just a brief second. I hope you guys are enjoying the nice lightning show here, courtesy of Wells Street Beach here in Gary. This is Gary's, we're going to call it third or fourth storm of the night. All right. All right, back to the radar here. Take a zoomed out look and take back the radar. Yeah, it's very weak and broad in nature. I'm not too concerned about it. It would be pretty much over Ohio right now. Copy that. All right, so this cell that we're talking about in the Lynn area has been weakening as we've been looking at the lightning in Gary, which is good news. This will be in Ohio completely in about probably 5 minutes or so. That warning will be allowed to expire. We have 2 warnings in effect here. We have one all the way back here toward Crawfordsville, a decent hail core just south of Linden and Manchester, heading toward Darlington and Garfield areas, as well as Thorntown at Max and Hazelrig as we move closer to the 9 o'clock hour. Up here, we have a cell over the Hartford area, just north of downtown Hartford, impacting with hail. That is the only threat that I see with that storm. We do have a report of $half size. That's not for Indiana. Okay. Disregard. So really only 2 storms out there that we're seeing that have severe potential right now. All these storms up here across the northern half of the state, we'll go and take the radar up here. They do carry a small hail potential, maybe an isolated large hailstone mixed in there. But the overall consensus that I'm getting with these storms is they're going to remain below severe limits. Remember, they're on the cold side, the stable side of the cold front. So the overall risk for wind and tornadoes is low. But there is a risk for hail that continues, but there's really no dominant cores up here. So I do believe we are nearing the end of our coverage very soon, between 9 and 10 o'clock more than likely. I do want to take note, though, there is some decent hail returns. You get close to the radar, there's definitely some hail falling here near Warsaw, Highlands Park, up toward North Webster, where the radar is in North Indiana. So keep in mind, this is statemented for half-inch hail down toward Wilmot, Etna, Lorain, Laurel, or Larville, Pierceton, Sydney, South Whitley, and Columbia City. Although Columbia City is kind of half in, half out, but we'll say Columbia City just for good faith. Other than that, there's only really 2 cells here, really one that catches my eye. Obviously, the one moving out of Indiana into Ohio is a little bit concerning to me. But the one up here to Hartford, in Hartford, is the other one that's concerning for the hail side of things. But even that, it doesn't appear to be like jumping off the page at me for, you know, a widespread threat, which is good news. The hail core down here in the Crawfordsville cell appears to be on the weaker side as well. I think we are seeing the downtrend we talked about here around that 9, 10 o'clock hour. So we'll stay live at least until these warnings are getting ready to expire, but we may be ready to hop off of here early. There's really nothing here that signifies that significant severe weather is going to continue to occur. I do think the risk for anything tornadic is becoming much lower the later on that we get into the night, which we're getting to that point where the instability after we set 8 p.m., 9 p.m. is going to really substantially decrease. And after 10 p.m., that threat should really diminish. So we're seeing it right now. Haley says, been hearing a lot of heavy wind and lightning in Richmond. Thank you for that report. The good news is Richmond is just outside the severe thunderstorm warning, and the storm is moving to your north. So you're going to hear thunder. Might be raining there a little bit too, but overall threat in Richmond is quite minimal from that storm. There is big hail in Bryant, Indiana. Yes, Amanda, one of our chasers actually confirmed golf ball sized hail out of that area. So that is confirmed. Okay, cool. Just checking with our chasers there, getting a rundown. The warning, it appears, for the Hartford cell has either been dropped or it looks like it's been dropped in a replacement of a statement. So now just one warning in effect, and it's a base warning that doesn't even look like it's going to be verifying. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not going to verify. That's not what I meant, but It looks like it's on the weakening trend here. I don't really see much in the way. There's a small hail core there, but it's also a little outdated. This is about 6 minutes old, so that's not going to be that accurate. So I do think we're going to wrap up our coverage here pretty soon. I'm not giving the all clear, but the threat is transitioning to a very large hail threat to piece dimes, maybe some isolated quarters. So the threat is just not widespread enough or major enough for us to continue to stay live for much longer. So we'll look to wrap it up here, maybe around 9 o'clock or so. Just want to reiterate as well, these storms that are on your screen currently, they all are in the cold sector of the system, which means it's only going to be a hail risk throughout the night. Tornadoes and wind is pretty much done and over with. The best chance for the threat will be on the very far southern flank of these storms. Down here, the Crawfordsville cell, for example, would have a chance at that. But overall, I need to look at the cold front positioning before I say anything further. But I think that front is already well past that storm, so it should just remain in the cold sector regardless. So I'm going to look at the real-time analysis and pop out Indiana. I need to look at the mesoanalysis page. Yeah, so that cell is on the cold sector. So we are, for the tornado threat and the wind threat tonight, it's pretty much done. Unless a storm can surge south, which none look like they're going to do. But copy. Thank you. Yeah, so as I was saying, I don't think we're going to have any more storms that are going to surge south of the cold front into the warm sector and produce. So what I'm going to say here is we're likely going to see a transition here to a more heavy thunderstorm type of event. Loud thunder, maybe some small hail, maybe at best some larger storms mixing in. But wind and tornadoes appear very, very low through the night. And the threat at this point appears to be pretty much isolated at best. So we'll wait until right around 9 o'clock. We'll hop out of here. And at this point in time, I'm going to relax a little bit. There is one warning in effect for the Thorntown, Lebanon area for large hail. There is a decent core over Darlington. But looking at the radar here, there's really nothing besides the CC is a bit supportive of some hail for sure. Looking at the vertically integrated liquid, there's a bit of a core there. It doesn't really stand out as significant. But again, heading toward Thorntown, Lebanon areas, Springton, Hazel Rig, warning is for quarter-size hail as it pushes toward that area and eventually in toward Noblesville and Fishers north of Indy. So really, this is going to be one of the last storms I think we're going to have to cover live here. Looking north, I don't really see much here. Let's turn on the hail tracker. Yeah, this is all just pea size, dime size at best that I'm seeing. I'm going to look at the advanced radar here as well. Take a look at what's going on in terms of how high these storms are. Because a hail core at 15,000 feet is not as strong as a hail core at 30,000 feet. The higher the hail core goes, the more strong, the better the chance for hail. So let's go ahead and take a peek at that real quick. The answer for that is... yeah, there's not really much of anything happening with that. Let's check out Indianapolis real quick. The Crawfordsville cell, let's go ahead and go up in height with that. 10,000 feet, there's a hail core. Let's go up to 20,000 feet. I went too high. So there's no core at 40,000 feet. There's barely a core at 15,000. Let's go up one more. 20,000, there's a little bit of a core there. So overall, I'm seeing a very distinct weakening trend. I do suggest that the cell heading in toward Portland may have some larger hail with it. Looking at the radar, I'll verify this before I say anything further. It's a pretty shallow storm still. So actually, I'm going to retract that statement. Could be some pea-sized hail moving into Pennville and Jay County, but anything larger appears quite unlikely with that cell. So overall concern for larger hail with that would be kind of subdued. Like I said, though, smaller hail definitely a concern, but this is definitely a threat that's trending down, which is great news. Great news. We had a couple golf ball size reports, so the significant hail did verify for some areas, but again, luckily most storms produce peas to quarters for a lot of us. Very isolated larger hailstones, which is good news. Muncie looking like immediate threat is going to be about an hour out. If there's going to be a severe threat, it's going to be hail for you. It's pretty much over for anything tornadic and wind-wise. You do have a couple lines of storms heading your direction. The first one is pretty weak in nature. This is the first one here coming out of Tipton. Second one behind it near Frankfort, a little bit more potent. They hold together. That'll reach in about an hour and a half or so. So Muncie, you're not out of the woods yet for thunderstorms, but severe threat across the state really is trending to be lower at the current moment. All right, to the chat. Let's relax a little bit here, guys. Best case scenario, like to see it. Obviously had damage, had some hail out there, so obviously not best case, but a lot better than what it could have been, as the environment leading up to today did support potential for some pretty large hailstones. Luckily, storms never got tapped into that potential, so good news there. Yeah, there's probably going to be a few rounds of storms for you guys across the evening tonight, but overall severe threat is looking much lower than what it was an hour or two ago, so I think we're trending in the right direction. Again, there's only one warning currently in Indiana. Technically two, if you want to look at this one down here. This is expired, though. That's for that cell over here. So I bet you my radar software is yet to update. That's canceled or expired. This warning goes for 21 more minutes. And this storm does not really appear to be severe at this point. The hail core on this has dramatically weakened. The core on it is about 15,000 feet or so. It's just not looking significant. Hayden said, I was expecting something crazy knowing that Reed timbers in the state. You know, that tells you something, though, about the environment today. And we were concerned for it here as well. I know some stations and some other sources were citing that we could see hail as big as softball size. We felt that was too excessive. We felt the tennis ball was probably the max we're going to see. And luckily didn't have to go that far as well. We got golf balls right, though. We predicted a couple golf balls reports in the state. We did get those. But most of these storms produced dimes and upwards of quarters. So still close to severe, if not a little bit over severe. But overall, the potential today was a lot worse than what happened. So overall, good news around. Also want to shout out our partner, our sponsor as well, Rutgers, in the bottom right corner of your screen. Displayed there, they are the trusted partner here at Indiana Weather Network. You can get a hold of them in the Marion County, Indianapolis region if you have tree needs or tree damage, or you have just general service needs. 317-665-3969 is Rutgers' number. Also like to thank Rutgers first being our sponsor and also our trusted partner, providing services in the event you guys happen to need them. So please utilize them if you do need tree services in and around Indianapolis. I'm going to flick on a chaser here. Who should we take? Let's see, Caleb getting gas. He's in Bryant. Let's see who else we got here. We got Drew out there in Perrysburg, Ohio. Anybody else out there with us? Ben. I love Ben's screen shaver. When he's not connected, it's a bouncing cat. It's kind of entertaining by itself. Let's go ahead and check out Corey's stream. I know Corey's heading back. Copy. Good news all around. Looks like Corey just got back to his HQ for the night. So that's good news. Looks like Steven's the only person out with Caleb. And also Drew heading home. So just Steven out there chasing. Good lightning there on his stream. Also got Caleb out there and Bryant. So it appears they just dropped the warning. Unless my software could be glitching. That's a possibility. I did want to restart it. So let's go ahead and restart that real quick. Okay, they did drop it. The only warning is that warning over by the Richmond area, but the storm is well into Ohio. It expires in 3 minutes, but they could have canceled it by now, but it'll expire here in 3 minutes. So at 9 o'clock, once that warning bar goes to all clear mode, it'll say special weather statement for the statement up there in North Indiana. But otherwise, once that hits the all clear mode, we're going to hop out of here. And I do not anticipate having to go live again this evening. If it is, it'll be for some bigger hail, but right now I do not see that as a big concern right now. So overall threat tonight, going back to the radar, going over things once again for you guys. I'll go over that statement as well for you. And I restarted my radar, so I have to reshare my screen. I forgot to give me a second. There we go. This is going to be a new statement up here for the Fort Wayne Metro. They're going to go hail up to penny size in nature and wind around 40 miles per hour. So we'll keep a close eye on that line. But these cells you see out here in the state, they're working their way from west to east with a bit of a southward movement. Any one of these cells could have small hail in them, but they are all in the cold sector of the storm system, which means they're going to produce hail and they're not going to produce tornadoes and damaging wind. So if anything else goes severe tonight, it'll be for the hail threat and maybe a brief gusty wind threat, because a lot of hail falling can produce gusty winds. But the overall concern of the winds mixing out of the ground from wind shear and stuff is much lower. So overall, there is really no severe in the state currently. There is some stronger storms up in the Fort Wayne area that are still below severe limits. So our coverage here is about done for the evening. If anything does go severe again, that is significant, I'll be back on here live. But in the meantime, I think we're done here, guys. If you live in South Indiana, we've been talking about this since the start of the stream, or started like 2 days ago, really. Your threat really is later on tonight. There's potential for these storms across Illinois to reach you, but it's going to be like 4 or 5 more hours for you guys down there. And your threat for severe is very, very low. So overall concern throughout the later half of the night is quite low in nature. So with that said, it is 8:59, about to be 9 o'clock here. We're going to roll the outro. Any more questions, feel free to ask them now. I would expect a very low threat for anything severe throughout the rest of the night. If anything does, it'll be for hail. All right. That warning should be dropping off our warning bar at the bottom. Also, keep in mind, if you have a watch out that is normal, they will cancel it eventually from west to east, if they haven't done so already. Also, I'm not sure why our bar is displaying Ohio counties. We had some issues at the start of the stream, but it looks like the bar down there is displaying Ohio counties. I'll refresh it here and see if I can't get that to change. Nope. Okay, that's not going to work. Either way, it's going to be no severe in the state. We are, right now, all clear from severe. So, with that being said, I think it's outro time. What do you guys think? Salina, Ohio. Thank you, Roberta, for asking that question. Got some Ohio fans in here tonight. Same thing applies over there in Salina. You guys are in the cold sector, so a hail threat will continue with any storm that comes your way. But I think the risk for tonight for severe weather is looking on the lower end for you guys. So, I am going to roll the outro now, guys. I'm going to pop myself off the screen, mute myself. You guys enjoy your evening. Make sure you have ways to receive warnings just in case one is issued, but at this time, I think the threat is overall low. And like I said many times before, it is strictly a hail threat from here on out. All right. With that being said, we'll catch you all in the next threat. Thanks for watching. I'm Ryan signing off. Also, shout out to our moderators and chasers. You guys are the best, as well as you guys here in chat watching. Thanks for tuning in.